Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Became a Genius Mathematician? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Chapter 1. The Equation That Changed Everything. It started with math. Of all the things that could have exposed them, Izuku supposed an algebraic equation made as much sense as anything else. Still, he wished it had been literally anything else. A villain attack would have been preferable. At least then he could have claimed adrenaline-induced clarity. The common room of the Class 1A dorms was unusually crowded for a Thursday evening. Most of the class had finished their homework and were sprawled across the various couches and chairs, engaged in their typical activities. Kaminari and Shiro were playing video games. Mina was painting Hagakure's nails, or rather, painting where Haгаkure's nails should be. Tokoyami was reading in the corner while Dark Shadow bothered Shuji. Izuku sat at the dining table, his hero analysis notebook open in front of him, though he wasn't actually writing in it. Instead, his mind was occupied with the code he'd been debugging earlier on his laptop. The security patch for the Hero Commission's database had a vulnerability he'd noticed 3 days ago, and he'd been working on a fix. Not that they knew he was working on it. Not that they knew the analyst even existed as anything more than an anonymous username that occasionally sent them security reports. Bakugo was nearby, sprawled on one of the couches with his own phone, thumb moving rapidly across the screen. To anyone watching, he looked like he was texting or scrolling through social media. Izuku knew better. That particular expression, concentration hidden behind artificial boredom, meant Bakugo was coding. Probably working on that tracking app he'd mentioned last week. They'd gotten good at hiding in plain sight. The peaceful atmosphere shattered when Aizawa walked in, followed by Vlad King. Both teachers looked annoyed, which was normal for Aizawa but unusual for the typically cheerful Class 1B homeroom teacher. "I'm telling you, Aizawa, the answer is clearly 42, Vlad insisted, holding up his phone. "The formula accounts for the variable distribution." "Your formula is overly simplified," Aizawa countered, his tone dry. "You're not accounting for the secondary variables. The answer is 73. Several students looked up with interest. It wasn't often they got to see teachers argue. "What's this about?" Kirishima asked, ever the brave one. Vlad turned to address the room. "We're debating a theoretical rescue scenario calculation. Given specific variables about structural integrity, civilian count, and hero response time, what's the optimal number of heroes needed for?" "Both are right," Bakugo said without looking up from his phone. The room went silent. Izuku's hand froze midway through reaching for his water bottle. No, Kaken, what are you doing?" Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "Both are the right answer," Bakugo repeated, finally looking up. His red eyes met Aizawa's black ones without flinching. "It's how you solve it that matters. You're both using different methodologies that prioritize different factors." Vlad frowned. "That's not how math works, Bakugo. There's one correct answer." "Actually," Izuku heard himself say because apparently his mouth had disconnected from his brain, "Kaken's right. If you're using the standard hero response algorithm, the answer is 42. But if you're incorporating the Shibuya coefficient for urban structural integrity, it's 73. They're both correct depending on your variables." The silence that followed was deafening. Kaminari's controller slipped from his hands. Aizawa's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "The Shibuya coefficient isn't taught at the high school level. It's publicly available information," Izuku said quickly, feeling heat rise to his cheeks. "If you know where to look. In academic journals that require university-level mathematics to understand," Aizawa continued. His gaze shifted between Izuku and Bakugo like a cat that had just spotted two particularly interesting mice. "How long have you both been able to do calculations like this?" Bakugo shrugged. "A while." "Defined a while." "Does it matter?" Bakugo's tone was dismissive, but Izuku could see the tension in his shoulders. They'd been too careless. Years of hiding, and they'd blown it over a stupid math problem. Aizawa was quiet for a long moment. Then, office. Both of you. Now. The teacher's office in the dorm building was small and cramped, barely big enough for the desk, a few chairs, and the overwhelming presence of Aizawa's suspicion. Izuku sat in one chair, Bakugo in the other, both carefully not looking at each other. Aizawa leaned against his desk, arms crossed. I'm going to ask you both some questions, and I expect honest answers. Let's start simple. What's your screen name? Deku, Izuku said automatically. Skun, Bakugo added. Not the ones you use for school, Aizawa clarified, his voice sharp. The ones you actually use. The ones you're online with when you're not logged into your school accounts. Izuku's heart hammered in his chest. This was it. The moment they'd been carefully avoiding for years. He glanced at Bakugo, who was staring at Aizawa with an unreadable expression. I have a few, Izuku finally admitted. One of them is the analyst. Another one is Seum. He watched Aizawa's eyes widen fractionally. It was the most emotion he'd seen on his teacher's face outside of expulsion threats. And you, Bakugo? Bakugo was silent for several seconds. Then he sighed, a sound of pure annoyance. Similar to Deku. Why do you think we're rarely online on our main school accounts? The one I use more is the Disruptor. And Fuse. Aizawa was very, very still. The analyst. The one who's been sending security reports to hero agencies across Japan for the past 3 years. Izuku nodded reluctantly. The Disruptor who created the Hero Response Coordination app that 40% of active heroes use? Bakugo's smirk was sharp. 42% as of last week. Jesus Christ, Aizawa muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose. I have 2 of the most wanted anonymous hackers in Japan sitting in my class. Does All Might know? No one knows, Izuku said quickly. That's kind of the point. Seum, Aizawa continued, ignoring him. Crisis Response Management. You're the one who rewrote the emergency dispatch protocol for Tokyo. It was inefficient, Izuku defended. Response times were 15% slower than they should have been. People were dying because... Not criticizing, Aizawa interrupted. That protocol saved lives during the Kamino incident. I'm just trying to understand how my problem child managed to infiltrate government systems without anyone noticing. I'm very good at what I do, Izuku said quietly. And Fuse? Aizawa turned back to Bakugo. The app that analyzes quirk compatibility for team formations? Guilty, Bakugo said. Heroes are shit at working together. Someone had to fix it. Aizawa was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was carefully controlled. How long have you both been doing this? Since middle school, Bakugo answered. We started small, Izuku added. Just observing. Learning. Then we realized we could actually help, and you decided to become vigilante hackers? We prefer independent security consultants, Bakugo said dryly. You're 16. 17 in a few months, Izuku corrected without thinking. Aizawa stared at them both. This conversation isn't over. Not by a long shot. But right now, I need to know, are you doing anything illegal? Define illegal, Bakugo said. That's not reassuring, Bakugo. We don't sell information, Izuku said quickly. We don't work for villains. We don't steal. We just fix things. Make things better. Safer. By hacking into secure systems. By identifying vulnerabilities before villains can exploit them, Izuku corrected. Everything we do makes heroes more effective and civilians safer. Aizawa looked like he had aged 10 years in the past 5 minutes. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but keep doing what you're doing. But we're going to have a much longer conversation about this tomorrow. With Nizu. And possibly the Hero Commission. Izuku's stomach dropped. Are we in trouble? I don't know yet, Aizawa admitted. But problem child number 1 and problem child number 2 just became significantly more complicated problems than I thought. As they left the office, Izuku caught Bakugo's eye. His childhood friend looked unbothered, but Izuku could see the calculation behind his expression. They'd been exposed. Now they had to figure out how to manage the fallout. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. End Chapter 1. Izuku didn't sleep that night. He lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling of his dorm room, mentally cataloging every system he'd ever accessed, every piece of code he'd ever written, every digital footprint he might have left. The analyst was supposed to be untraceable. He'd been so careful, routing everything through multiple VPNs, using encrypted channels, covering his tracks with the kind of thoroughness that bordered on paranoia. But now Aizawa knew. Which meant Nizu would know. And if there was one person in all of Japan who could unravel his carefully constructed anonymity, it was the super-intelligent chimera who ran UA. His phone buzzed at 3:47 a.m. Kaken, you awake? Deku, unfortunately. Kaken, stop panicking. We didn't do anything wrong. Deku, we hacked into government databases. Kaken, we improved government databases. There's a difference. Deku, I don't think the law sees it that way. Kaken, the law can go F itself. Get some sleep, nerd. We'll deal with it tomorrow. Izuku didn't get any sleep. The summons came at breakfast. Aizawa appeared in the common room doorway like a sleep-deprived specter, his eyes somehow more bloodshot than usual. Midoriya. Bakugu. Principal Nizu wants to see you. Now. The chatter in the common room died instantly. Are they in trouble? Kirishima asked, worry clear in his voice as he looked at Bakugu. That remains to be seen, Aizawa said cryptically. The rest of you go to class. This doesn't concern you. Todoroki's heterochromatic eyes followed them as they left, expression unreadable. Izuku caught the concern there anyway. Todoroki had gotten better at showing emotion, even if he didn't realize it. The walk to Nizu's office felt like a march to execution. Principal Nizu's office was exactly as Izuku remembered, pristine, organized, with a faint scent of expensive tea in the air. The principal himself sat behind his large desk, paws folded, his ever-present smile somehow more unsettling than usual. Ah, Midoriya-kun, Bakugu-kun. Please, sit down. Tea? I'm good, Bakugu muttered, dropping into a chair. And no thank you, sir, Izuku stammered, taking the seat next to Bakugu. Nizu poured himself a cup anyway, the silence stretching as he took a delicate sip. Do you know why I asked you here? Aizawa-sensei told you about our screen names, Izuku said quietly. Indeed he did. Though I must admit, I already suspected. Nizu's black eyes gleamed with intelligence that made Izuku feel like an insect under a microscope. The analyst has been on my radar for quite some time. Your coding style is distinctive, Midoriya-kun. Efficient, elegant, with a particular fondness for recursive functions that most programmers your age wouldn't even consider. Izuku's mouth went dry. And you, Bakugu-kun the disruptor, Fuse your applications show a remarkable understanding of user interface design combined with complex algorithmic thinking. The Hero Coordination app alone would have earned you a considerable fortune if you'd chosen to monetize it. Bakugu shrugged. Money wasn't the point. No, it wasn't. Nizu set down his teacup. Which brings me to my question, what was the point? Izuku and Bakugu exchanged glances. Heroes needed better tools, Izuku said finally. The systems in place were outdated, inefficient, vulnerable. People were dying because of bad coordination, slow response times, security breaches. We could fix it, so we did. Without authorization. Without oversight. Without anyone knowing who you were. Would you have let 2 middle school kids rebuild your security infrastructure if we'd asked permission? Bakugu shot back. Nizu's smile widened. No, I wouldn't have. Which is precisely why you didn't ask. Smart. He leaned forward. Let me be clear, what you've done is technically illegal. Unauthorized access to government systems, even with good intentions, is a crime. However, Izuku's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. However, Nizu continued, your work has been invaluable. The security patches you've provided have prevented at least 3 major data breaches. Your crisis response protocol saved an estimated 47 lives during Kamino. Bakugu-kun's coordination app has improved hero team efficiency by 23%. You've done more good in 3 years than some heroes do in their entire careers. So, we're not expelled? Izuku asked hesitantly. Expelled? My dear boy, I'm considering offering you internships. Nizu pulled out a tablet, tapping at the screen. However, we do need to establish some ground rules. Your activities can continue, but under UA's supervision. You'll report your projects to me, and you'll have legitimate authorization for the systems you access. Think of it as bringing your vigilante hacking above board. Bakugo leaned back in his chair. And if we don't agree? Then I'll have no choice but to report your activities to the authorities, and we'll let the justice system sort it out. Though I suspect, Nizu's eyes glittered, that you're both smart enough to see which option benefits everyone involved. Fine, Bakugo said, but I'm not stopping my independent projects. Nor would I ask you to. I simply want to be aware of them. Nizu turned to Izuku. Now, Midoriya-kun, I do have some questions about your other screen name. CRM Crisis Response Management. That's not just a screen name, is it? It's an organization. Izuku shifted uncomfortably. It's more of a collective. People who help with crisis situations. People you've never met in person? No, sir. And yet you trust them enough to give them access to sensitive systems. I've vetted everyone, Izuku said quickly. Background checks, skill assessments, psychological profiles. Nobody gets access without proving they're trustworthy. Fascinating. Nizu made a note on his tablet. I'll need a list of these individuals. Some of them are anonymous even to me, Izuku admitted. They're good people, but they have reasons for staying hidden. Underground heroes? Aizawa interjected from where he'd been standing silently by the door. Some of them, others are just people who want to help but can't do it publicly. Nizu hummed thoughtfully. Very well. I won't push on that front yet. But Midoriya-kun, you need to understand that you've built something significant. CRM has connections throughout hero society and beyond. That makes you powerful, and power without accountability is dangerous. I know, Izuku whispered. That's why I've been so careful. Careful enough that even I didn't know you were one of my students until yesterday, Nizu acknowledged. That speaks to considerable skill. But now that the secret is out, we need to adapt. I propose a formal arrangement. You both continue your work, but as official consultants to UA. You'll have legitimate credentials, legal protection, and resources. In exchange, you answer to me. What kind of resources? Bakugo asked, suddenly interested. Better hardware. Access to UA's servers. Consultation with our support department. And, Nizu's smile turned almost predatory, access to classified hero commission databases that even you haven't managed to crack, Midoriya-kun. Izuku's eyes widened. The Tartarus security files? Among others. Deal, Bakugo said immediately. Kaken. It's a good deal, Deku. We get what we want, we just have to play by some rules. Could be worse. Izuku looked between Nizu and Bakugo, then finally nodded. Deal. Excellent. Nizu clapped his paws together. I'll have the paperwork drawn up. In the meantime, I need you both to compile a comprehensive list of every system you've accessed, every program you've created, and every person you've worked with. Can you have that for me by Monday? That's 3 days, Izuku protested. You once rebuilt the Tokyo emergency dispatch system in 48 hours, Midoriya-kun. I'm sure you'll manage. They left Nizu's office in a daze. Did we just get recruited? Izuku asked as they walked back toward the dorms. Looks like it, Bakugo muttered. Could have gone worse. Could have gone better. At least we're not in jail. Yet, Izuku added gloomily. Bakugo elbowed him. Stop being a pessimist. This is good. We get better resources, legal cover, and we don't have to hide as much. Plus, access to those commission files? That's huge, Deku. I know, but Izuku trailed off, troubled. What if they try to control what we do? What if they shut down CRM? Then we'll deal with it. We always do. They were almost back to the dorms when Izuku's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, expecting a message from his mom or maybe one of his classmates. Instead, his blood ran cold. Unknown number. Congratulations on your coming out, analyst. Though I have to say, I'm disappointed. I thought you were smarter than to get caught by a high school teacher. Izuku stopped walking. What? Bakugo asked, noticing his expression. Izuku showed him the phone. Bakugo's eyes narrowed. Who the F? Another message came through. Unknown number, don't bother trying to trace this. You know you won't find me. I've been watching you for a while now, Green Bean. You and your explosive friend both. You've done impressive work. Unknown number, but you're playing in the kiddie pool. Want to see what the deep end looks like? This is a trap, Bakugo said immediately. Obviously, Izuku agreed, his fingers already moving across his phone's keyboard, trying to trace the number even though he knew it was futile. But who even knows to contact the analyst? We just told Aizawa and Nizu last night. Someone who's been watching longer than that. Another message. Unknown number, I have a proposition for you. Nothing illegal, nothing that would compromise your shiny new arrangement with UA. Just a project that might interest someone with your particular talents. And before you ask, yes, I know about your crisis response collective. I know about every system you've ever touched. I know about the vulnerability you found in the Hero Commission's database last week. I know about the patch you're working on for the Tartarus security system, the one Nizu just promised you access to. Izuku's hands were shaking. Unknown number, meet me tomorrow night. I'll send coordinates. Come alone, both of you. Don't tell your teachers. Don't tell your hero friends. This stays between us. Unknown number, oh, and analyst? I'm a fan of your work. Would be a shame if something happened to compromise all those systems you've so carefully protected. See you tomorrow. Winky face. The messages stopped. Izuku and Bakugo stared at the phone. We have to tell Aizawa, Izuku said. And say what? Some mysterious hacker is threatening us? They'll lock us down, take away our access, probably put us under surveillance. They're already going to put us under surveillance, Kakin. We just agreed to work for Nizu. This is different. This is, Bakugo's jaw clenched. This is someone who knows too much. Someone who's been watching us for a while. And they're good enough that you can't trace them, which means they're better than you thought anyone was. Izuku's mind was racing. The unknown sender knew about things that should have been impossible to know. The Tartarus system patch wasn't even in a finished state, yet it was still in his private development environment, isolated from any network. For someone to know about it, they'd have to have access to his personal computer. Or they'd have to be good enough to break through security that Izuku himself had designed. We're telling Aizawa, Izuku said firmly. After we meet them, Bakugo countered. Kakin. Think about it, Deku. Whoever this is, they're not a villain. Not yet, anyway. They could have exposed us, could have sold our identities, could have done a lot worse than send some cryptic messages. They want to meet. They want to talk. And they know enough about what we do that they might actually be able to help with something. Or they could be setting a trap. Obviously it's a trap. But it's a trap we can prepare for. Bakugo's red eyes were sharp with determination. We go, we see what they want, and we're ready to bail at the first sign of real danger. If it's actually dangerous, we'll have evidence to show Aizawa. If it's not, maybe we get some answers about who else is playing in our sandbox. Izuku wanted to argue. Every rational part of his brain was screaming that this was a terrible idea. But Bakugo had a point. Whoever this was, they were operating at a level that Izuku hadn't encountered before. And if they were a threat, it was better to know sooner rather than later. Fine, Izuku said reluctantly. But we prepare. We set up contingencies. And if anything feels wrong, we leave immediately. Obviously. Another buzz. Unknown number, oh, and analyst? I look forward to finally meeting you in person. I've been such a fan of your work with fire-related quirk incidents. You have a real talent for crisis management. Fire. Izuku's heart skipped a beat. Fire-related quirk incidents. That was specific. Very specific. He'd handled dozens of different crisis types, but fire quirk incidents weren't particularly common in his work. Why would someone mention that specifically? Boss. Kakin, I think whoever this is, they might have a fire quirk. Or they're FNG with you. Maybe. But the emoji, the specific mention. Izuku pulled up his encrypted files, scrolling through his crisis response logs. 3 months ago, there was a major fire quirk incident in Yokohama. Blue flames, extremely hot, civilian casualties. I helped coordinate the response remotely. The quirk signature was unusual hotter than normal fire, almost impossible to put out with conventional methods. So that incident was never officially reported. The Hero Commission covered it up. There's no way someone outside the commission or the heroes involved would know the details. And there's definitely no way they'd know I was involved in the response. Bakugu's expression darkened. You think it's a villain? I think it's someone who was there. And if they have a fire quirk that matches that description. Izuku pulled up the incident report, his eyes scanning the limited information he'd managed to gather. Kaken, I think we might be dealing with the League of Villains. The League of Villains doesn't recruit through cryptic text messages. No, but individual members might. Especially if they're interested in our skills rather than our allegiance. Another message came through, as if the sender could hear their conversation. Unknown number, smart boy. See you tomorrow, green bean. And don't worry I don't bite. Fire blue heart. The blue heart emoji felt like confirmation. Izuku looked at Bakugu. We're in over our heads. When are we not? Bakugu cracked his knuckles. Guess we better start preparing. If we're meeting a member of the League of Villains, I want to make sure we can blow our way out if necessary. We should really tell Aizawa. After, Bakugu insisted. After we know what we're dealing with. Izuku sighed. This was a terrible idea. But then again, most of their best ideas started out terrible. Fine. But we're bringing backup protocols. And if anything goes wrong. Yeah, we'll call in the cavalry. Now come on nerd. We've got a list to compile for Nizu, and apparently we've also got a date with a villain to prepare for. As they headed back to the dorms, Izuku couldn't shake the feeling that their carefully controlled double life was about to get significantly more complicated. And somewhere in Japan, in a dark room lit only by the glow of multiple computer screens, someone with blue flames dancing across their scarred hands smiled at the message thread on their phone. Gotcha, Dabi murmured, closing the chat. Let's see what you're really made of, analyst. They made it back to the dorms without incident, but neither of them spoke until they were safely behind the locked door of Izuku's room. It was smaller than Bakugu's, but it had the advantage of being farther from the common areas, less chance of being overheard. Izuku immediately pulled out his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard as he pulled up every scrap of information he had on the Yokohama fire incident. Bakugu sprawled in the desk chair, his own phone in hand, scrolling back through the messages with narrowed eyes. Read them again, Izuku muttered, still typing. Out loud. Slowly. Bakugu cleared his throat. First message. Congratulations on your coming out, analyst. Though I have to say, I'm disappointed. I thought you were smarter than to get caught by a high school teacher. Condescending, Izuku noted. But also, familiar? Like he's been watching us long enough to form opinions about our intelligence. Keep going or analyze after? After. Continue. Don't bother trying to trace this. You know you won't find me. I've been watching you for a while now, green bean. Bakugu paused. Green bean. That's specific. Not kid, or analyst, green bean. Izuku's fingers stilled on the keyboard. That's almost affectionate. In a weird, threatening way. Yeah, I noticed that too. Next one. You and your explosive friend both. You've done impressive work. He knows about both of us specifically. Not just the analyst, he knows we work together. Izuku pulled up a separate document, starting to take notes. That narrows down the pool of people who could know significantly. Then, but you're playing in the kiddie pool. Want to see what the deep end looks like? Bakugu made a face. That's an invitation. Not a threat, an invitation. Or a challenge, Izuku countered. Trying to provoke us into meeting him. Next message, Bakugu continued. I have a proposition for you. Nothing illegal, nothing that would compromise your shiny new arrangement with UA. Izuku's head snapped up. Wait, say that again. Nothing that would compromise your shiny new arrangement with UA, Bakugu repeated slowly. He specifically says it won't compromise our arrangement. He's not trying to turn us into villains, he's acknowledging that we have a legitimate position now and he's not asking us to give that up. Izuku's mind was racing. That's not how villain recruitment usually works. They want you to abandon your hero affiliations, not work around them. Keep going with that thought, but let me finish. Just a project that might interest someone with your particular talents. Bakugo scrolled down. Then he lists everything he knows. The commission database, Tartarus, the vulnerability from last week. But here's the thing, Deku, he's not threatening to expose any of it. He's just proving he knows. Proving he's been watching long enough to be trustworthy? Or proving he's good enough to be worth listening to? Bakugo moved to the next message. Meet me tomorrow night. I'll send coordinates. Come alone, both of you. Don't tell your teachers. Don't tell your hero friends. This stays between us. That's the most threatening one, Izuku said quietly. But even then he's asking us to come alone, not demanding. And he includes both of us, not trying to separate us or make us vulnerable. Then the actual threat would be a shame if something happened to compromise all those systems you've so carefully protected. Bakugo looked up. But notice he says, would be a shame, not, I'll compromise them if you don't show up. It's conditional. Hypothetical. Izuku leaned back against his bed, staring at the ceiling. Then the fire-related quirk incidents comment. That was deliberate. He wanted us to know who he was. And the emojis. The blue heart. Bakugo set his phone down. I think you were right. It's Dabi. And I don't think he's actually threatening us. Then what's he doing? Bakugo was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful in a way that most people never got to see. Let's read it again. But this time, let's read between the lines. What's he really saying? Izuku grabbed his notebook, the encrypted one he used for sensitive information, and started writing. First message. I thought you were smarter than to get caught. On the surface, that's an insult. But what if it's actually? Izuku paused, pen hovering over paper. What if it's concern? Like he's worried that getting caught by Aizawa means we're compromised. Or exposed to danger, Bakugo added. If he's been watching us, he knows we've been careful. Getting caught is a vulnerability. He's pointing it out. Second message. I've been watching you for a while now, Green Bean. Izuku tapped his pen against the notebook. The nickname is almost protective? And admitting he's been watching for a while, that's not something you tell someone you're planning to harm. That's something you tell someone when you want them to know you understand them. You've done impressive work, Bakugo quoted. That's validation. He's telling you he respects what you do. Then, playing in the kiddie pool, comment. Izuku wrote faster. What if that's not an insult? What if he's saying we're limiting ourselves? That we could do more? Want to see what the deep end looks like? Bakugo leaned forward. That's an offer to show us something. To teach us something. The proposition message, Izuku continued, his excitement growing as the pieces clicked together. He specifically says it won't compromise our UA arrangement. He's not asking us to choose between him and our hero path. He's saying they can coexist. Which means whatever he wants, it's not standard villain sheet, Bakugo concluded. Then listing everything he knows. Kaken, what if that's not a threat? What if he's proving his credentials? Like a resume. Look how good I am, look what I know, you can trust that I'm competent enough to work with. Bakugo's eyes widened. Holy shit. Deku, I think he's asking for help. The meeting request, Izuku said urgently. Don't tell teachers, don't tell hero friends. What if that's not because he's planning something villainous, but because he can't risk other heroes knowing? If he's League of Villains, reaching out to hero students would be treason, Bakugo finished. He'd be killed if they found out. And the threat about compromising our systems? Izuku was writing so fast his handwriting was barely legible. What if that's not a threat at all? What if he's warning us that someone else might try to compromise them? That we need protection we don't currently have? Then the fire quirk comment. He wanted us to know it was him specifically. Not just any league member him. Dabi. Bakugo pulled up his own files on his phone. And the blue heart emoji. That's his signature, basically. his flames, his identity. He's not hiding. He's risking everything to contact us, Izuku whispered. Kaken, if the League finds out he's reaching out to hero students, they'll kill him. Or worse. Bakugo's expression was grim. So the question is, why is he willing to take that risk? They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their realizations settling over them. Pull up everything we have on Dabi, Izuku said finally. Not just villain incident reports. Everything. Social media analysis, behavior patterns, psychological profiles. If he's asking for help, we need to understand what kind of help he needs. Bakugo was already moving, transferring files from his phone to Izuku's laptop. I've got some stuff. Not as much as you probably have, but enough. For the next hour, they compiled and analyzed Dabi's appearances. His targets always heroes with questionable ethics, always ensuring civilian casualties were minimal. His flames powerful but controlled, never used with true lethal intent when he could avoid it. His behavior during the League's attacks always positioning himself between the more violent members and potential victims. He's been sabotaging them, Izuku said suddenly. Look at this. During the training camp attack, he was supposed to capture students. But he spent most of his time fighting Aizawa-sensei and keeping the other villains away from the groups of students. And here, Bakugo pointed to another report. Hosu incident. He was supposedly backup for Stain, but he mostly just made flashy entrances and retreats. No actual casualties from his direct actions. The Kamino incident. Kaken, he grabbed you, but he didn't hurt you. He had multiple opportunities. But he just held you. Kept you away from the fighting. You think he's a spy? Bakugo asked. I think he's someone who got in too deep and doesn't know how to get out, Izuku said quietly. And I think he's been watching us because he sees what we do fixing systems, making things better from the inside, and he wants that for himself. So what's the project? I don't know. But I think we need to find out. Izuku pulled up the messages again. Let's look at the exact wording one more time. A project that might interest someone with your particular talents. Plural talents. Not just hacking, he knows we do crisis response, security analysis, system improvement. What if he needs help getting out? Bakugo suggested. Like, actually defecting from the League? That would be huge. Monumentally dangerous. For him and for us. Izuku's hands were shaking slightly. But if that's what he's asking, then we need to be prepared for anything, Bakugo finished. Deku, we need to tell someone. If we're right about this, if he's actually trying to defect, we need backup. We need heroes involved. But he said not to tell anyone. If we bring heroes, he'll see it as a betrayal. He won't trust us. If we don't bring backup and this goes sideways, we're dead. They stared at each other. Compromise, Izuku said finally. We set up contingencies. We tell someone. Someone we trust completely. Not Aizawa, he'd shut this down immediately. Not Nizu, too unpredictable. But someone who could help if things go wrong. All Might. Bakugo suggested reluctantly. Maybe. Or, Izuku hesitated. What about Todoroki? Half and half? Why him? Because Dabi has a fire quirk. Because Todoroki understands complicated family situations and moral gray areas. Because he's powerful enough to help if we need it, but he thinks differently than most heroes. He'd understand why we need to handle this carefully. Bakugo considered this. He's also been acting weird around you lately. What? No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. He watches you in class. He finds excuses to partner with you during training. He asked me about your favorite foods last week. Izuku felt his face heat up. That's not relevant right now. Just saying. If we're going to bring someone in, it should be someone who'd die before letting anything happen to you. And half qualifies. Bakugo smirked. Also Kirishima. We should tell Kirishima. Because he's your friend? Izuku asked carefully. Because he's loyal, he can take a hit, and he doesn't ask stupid questions, Bakugo said, but there was something softer in his expression. And yeah, fine, I trust him. Sue me. So we tell Todoroki and Kirishima. We set up tracking on our phones so they know where we are. We establish check-in times. And if something goes wrong, they call in the cavalry. Bakugo nodded. But Deku, if we're doing this, if we're actually meeting with Dabi, we need to be prepared for the possibility that we're wrong. That this isn't a cry for help. That it's actually a trap. I know. Izuku looked at the messages one more time. But Kaken, what if we're right? What if he really is asking for help and we ignore it? How many people has he hurt because he's trapped in the league? How many people could we save if we help him get out? You and your saving people complex, Bakugo muttered, but there was no heat in it. Fine. We'll do it your way. But we do it smart. We prepare for everything. And if he so much as looks at you wrong, I'm blowing him to hell. Deal. A new message came through, making both of them jump. Unknown number, tomorrow night, 11 p.m. I'll send the exact location at 10. Come prepared not for a fight, but for a conversation. An analyst? Thank you for actually thinking about this instead of just reporting me. That's why I chose you. Unknown number PS, bring your explosive friend. He's smarter than people give him credit for. You'll both need to be smart for what I'm going to ask. Fire. Izuku stared at the message. He knew we were discussing it. He knew we'd figure it out. Or he's monitoring your room somehow, Bakugo said darkly, immediately starting to scan for bugs or cameras. No, I sweep for surveillance daily. He's good at reading people. He knew we'd analyze the messages. Kaki Biasudi. Kaken, look at the PS. He specifically mentions you being smarter than people give you credit for. He's done research on both of us. He knows about your intelligence, about how people underestimate you because of your personality. Great, I have a villain fanboy. Or someone who actually understands what we're capable of, Izuku said quietly. Someone who respects our skills enough to ask for our help despite the massive risk to himself. Bakugo was quiet for a long moment. Then, tomorrow night, we're going to meet with a member of the League of Villains, possibly help him defect, and potentially start a chain of events that could change everything. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure I had that right. Bakugo stood up, stretching. I'm going to start preparing. We'll need burner phones, emergency beacons, probably some of your fancy encryption stuff. And we need to talk to Half and Kirishima tonight. Agreed. And Kaken. What? Thank you. For not thinking I'm crazy for wanting to help him. Bakugo snorted. You are crazy. But you're usually right about people. And if there's even a chance that he's serious about this, he paused at the door. Then yeah, we help him. Because that's what we do, right? We fix broken systems. And maybe Dabi's just another broken system that needs fixing. After Bakugo left, Izuku sat alone in his room, staring at the messages. He pulled up every piece of information he had on Dabi, cross-referencing it with Fire Quirk users, analyzing behavior patterns, looking for anything that might tell him who Dabi really was beneath the villain persona. One detail caught his eye, the way Dabi held himself during fights. The stance was familiar, trained. Almost like Izuku's eyes widened. He pulled up files on Todoroki's family, on Endeavor's training methods, on the Todoroki children, on Tuya Todoroki, who had supposedly died in a training accident years ago. Oh, Izuku whispered to the empty room. Oh no. If he was right, if Dabi was who he thought he was, then this was so much more complicated than a simple defection. This was about family, trauma, and a broken system that had failed a child so completely that he'd become a villain. And if Izuku and Bakugo helped him, they might not just be saving one person. They might be healing a wound that had festered in hero society for years. Or they might be making the biggest mistake of their lives. Either way, tomorrow night was going to change everything. Izuku stared at his laptop screen for exactly 30 seconds after his revelation about Dabi's potential identity. Then his fingers were moving, pulling up programs and protocols he'd designed for exactly this kind of situation: secure communication with hostile or vulnerable sources. Kaken, he called out, already typing. Come back here. Now. Bakugo must have heard something in his tone because he was back in less than a minute, slamming the door open. What? I'm texting him back. Are you insane? Those numbers are designed to be one-way. You can't. I can. Izuku's fingers flew across the keyboard, code streaming across multiple windows. I've been working on a protocol for exactly this. Untraceable, encrypted, routing through 17 different proxy servers across 8 countries. Even if the League is monitoring his phone, they won't be able to intercept or trace this. Deku. He's not alone, Kaken. Izuku's voice was tight with urgency. Look at the message patterns. The word choices shift. Green bean versus analyst. Casual versus formal. The emoji usage is inconsistent. There are at least 2 different people using that number. Bakugo leaned over his shoulder, scanning the screen. Sheet. You're right. So who's the second person? I have a theory, but Izuku pulled up another window, cross-referencing League of Villains activity patterns. During major operations, Dabi and Shigaraki are almost never separated. They work in tandem. If Dabi's trying to defect, he'd need to get their leader out too, or he'd be killed for treason. Bakugo's eyes widened. Holy F-death. You think Shigaraki Tamura is trying to defect? I think 2 people are trapped in a situation they can't escape alone, and they're desperate enough to reach out to high school students for help. Izuku hit enter, and the encryption program activated. I'm asking directly. If I'm wrong, we'll know. If I'm right, then we're in even deeper sheet than we thought. Izuku pulled out his personal phone, not the school-issued one, but the custom-built device with security protocols that would make government agencies weep with envy. He opened a new interface, one that looked like a standard messaging app but was actually a heavily encrypted communication channel. His fingers hovered over the keyboard for just a moment. Then he typed, "The analyst, one question, are you working alone, or are there 2 of you?" He routed it through his untraceable protocol and sent it to the unknown number. Then he waited. Across the city, in a decrepit apartment building that had been abandoned after the last economic crash, Dabi's phone buzzed. He was sitting on a stained mattress on the floor, the only furniture in the room besides a broken chair and a card table where Tamura was hunched over his own laptop. The younger man's hair hung in his face as he typed furiously, one finger carefully lifted to avoid decaying the keys. Dabi glanced at his phone, expecting another automated message or spam. Instead, his eyes widened. "Tamura," he said quietly. "Busy," Tamura muttered, not looking up. "Tamura." The kid texted back. That got his attention. Tamura's head snapped up, red eyes wide behind the hand covering his face. "That's impossible. Those numbers are one-way. I specifically designed." "Yeah, well, apparently the analyst is better than you thought." Dabi held up his phone, showing the message. Tamura crossed the room in 3 quick strides, staring at the screen. How did he, that level of encryption, the proxy routing, He trailed off, something like respect flickering across his visible features. "He's good. The question is, how did he know there are 2 of us?" Dabi's hand clenched around the phone. "We were careful. The messages were all from the same number, same timing patterns. There shouldn't have been any indication." "Word choice," Tamura said immediately, his analytical mind already working. Tone shifts. "I write differently than you." He analyzed the linguistic patterns and caught the inconsistency. "In less than an hour." "In less than an hour," Tamura confirmed. He scratched at his neck absently, a nervous habit that had gotten worse lately. "So he knows there are 2 of us. Does he know who we are?" "Only one way to find out." Dabi's thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then he typed, "Yes, there are 2 of us." The response came back almost immediately. "The analyst, are you somewhere safe? Are you guys in a good hiding spot? Not in immediate danger?" Dabi stared at the message. Then he read it again. "He's worried about us," he said, disbelief coloring his tone. "Tamura, this kid who knows we're villains, who's probably figured out exactly who we are, is asking if we're safe." Tamura leaned over his shoulder, reading the message. His visible eye was unreadable. It could be a trick, trying to get us to reveal our location. "The analyst doesn't need tricks. If he wanted to find us, he'd find us." Dabi thought about the reports he'd read, the systems the kid had infiltrated, the security he'd bypassed. He's asking because he actually cares. That's Tamura's hand came up to scratch his neck again, then stopped. That's illogical. We're enemies. Are we? Dabi looked at the younger man who'd become something close to a friend over the past year of careful rebellion against all for one's plans. We haven't actually hurt anyone in months. We've been sabotaging the League's operations. We've been planning this escape for half a year. At what point did we stop being villains? When we started wanting to be something else, Tamura whispered. Dabi typed, yes. We're safe. For now. Another immediate response. The analyst, okay. That's good to hear. Don't do anything. Don't make any moves. I have an idea. I need to get a few more people involved, but I think I can make this work. We can make people think Dabi. And Shigaraki died. The LOV won't be able to find you. Dabi's phone slipped from his nerveless fingers. Tamura caught it, staring at the screen. He knows. He knows exactly who we are. How? Dabi's voice was rough. We were so careful. There's no way. He's the analyst, Tamura said, something like awe in his voice. He analyzes everything. Behavior patterns, quirk signatures, operational methods. He probably cross-referenced our activities with missing persons databases, psychological profiles, quirk registries. He trailed off, then laughed a broken, slightly hysterical sound. We tried to recruit the one person in Japan smart enough to see through us completely. He said fake our deaths, Dabi said, retrieving his phone with shaking hands. That means, he's actually trying to help us. This isn't a trap. This is a rescue. We don't know that. Yes, we do. Dabi's scarred hand clenched around the phone. Because if he wanted to capture us, he'd have sent heroes to this location already. He traced the message source, Tamura. I'd bet anything he knows exactly where we are right now. And instead of sending All Might to kick down the door, he's asking if we're safe and telling us to stay put. Tamura was very quiet. Then, what do? We answer him. Dabi's fingers moved across the keyboard. How did you figure out who we are? The analyst, behavioral analysis. Quirk signatures. Operational patterns. You've both been sabotaging LOV operations for months. Small things that could be explained as accidents or bad luck. But the pattern is consistent. Dabi's fire quirk control during fights shows professional training, probably from a young age. Shigaraki's decay quirk usage has become increasingly precise and non-lethal. You're not acting like villains anymore. You're acting like people trapped in a role they don't want. The analyst. Also, Dabi, your fighting stance is identical to Endeavor's teaching method. It took me a while, but I cross-referenced it with the Todoroki family history. I'm sorry about what happened to you, Tuya. Dabi's breath caught in his throat. Beside him, Tamura's hand found his shoulder, squeezing carefully with 3 fingers. He knows, Dabi whispered. He knows everything and he's still offering to help. The analyst. I'm bringing in a few people I trust. People who can help. But I need you both to promise me something. Don't do anything rash. Don't try to escape on your own. Don't engage with the LOV if you can avoid it. Just stay alive until I can get everything in place. Can you do that? Dabi looked at Tamura. The younger man's eyes were wide behind father's hand, and for the first time since Dabi had known him, he looked genuinely hopeful. Can we trust him? Tamura asked quietly. Can we afford not to? Dabi countered. We've been planning our escape for months, and we both know the odds of survival are less than 5%. This kid is offering us a way out. A real way out. He's a child. A hero student. He's the analyst. He's probably the smartest person either of us has ever met. And he's choosing to help us. Dabi's thumb moved across the keyboard. We can do that. But I need to know, why are you helping us? What's in it for you? The response came after a slightly longer pause this time, as if the kid was actually thinking about how to answer. The analyst. Because everyone deserves a second chance. Because the hero system failed you both, and that's not your fault. Because I've spent years analyzing hero society, and I've seen how it creates people like you, people with incredible potential who got pushed into corners until villainy seemed like the only option. And because saving people is what I do. Even when those people are supposed to be my enemies. The analyst. Also, Shigaraki, I've read your manifesto about reforming hero society. The one you wrote under the username Player2 on that underground forum. You're right about a lot of things. The system is broken. It needs people willing to fix it from the inside. You could be one of those people if you survive. Tamura made a choked sound. He found Player2. That forum has military-grade encryption. How did he? Because he's terrifying, Dabi said flatly. And apparently he's been stalking us for a while. Shigaraki, this is Tamura. How long have you known about Player2? The analyst, about 6 months. I've been following your posts. You have good ideas about systemic reform. Some of them I've actually implemented in my own work. The concept of distributed crisis response networks instead of centralized hero agencies? That's brilliant. I built CRM partially based on your theories. Tamura sat down heavily on the mattress. He built a crisis response system based on my theories. My villain theories. Good theories, Dabi corrected. Theories about making hero society better. Less corrupt. More effective. He typed, what's your plan? How do you fake the deaths of 2 of the most recognizable villains in Japan? The analyst, still working on the details, but the basic idea, we stage a confrontation. Make it look like you both died in a fight explosion, fire, something that would destroy bodies beyond recognition. I'll need to coordinate with some people, maybe even some pro-heroes who can be trusted to keep secrets. It'll be complicated, but it's possible. The analyst, the real challenge is what comes after. You'll both need new identities, protection, somewhere safe to hide while we work on getting you formal amnesty or witness protection. That's the part one need more people for. I can't do that alone. Dabi, who are you bringing in? The analyst, my partner, you know him as the disruptor. He already knows about this conversation. We work together on everything. Plus 2 classmates who we can trust completely. They're both powerful enough to help if things go wrong, and they're both people who understand moral complexity. The analyst, I won't tell them who you are without your permission. But I need backup. If this goes wrong, if the LOV figures out what we're doing, I need people who can help protect you. Dabi and Tamura looked at each other for a long moment. This is insane, Tamura said finally. Completely, Dabi agreed. We're trusting a 16-year-old hero student to fake our deaths and give us new lives. Yep. The League will kill us if they find out. Probably. All for One will definitely kill us if he finds out. Without question. Tamura scratched his neck, thinking. Then he reached for the phone. When do we meet? The analyst, tomorrow night. 11. I'll send you a location at 10. Bring whatever you need to disappear documents, money, anything you can't replace. This might be your only chance to grab stuff before we stage your deaths. The analyst, and guys? Thank you for trusting me. I know how hard this must be. But I promise I'll do everything I can to keep you both safe. Dabi felt something tight in his chest loosen just slightly. He promises to keep us safe. When was the last time anyone promised us safety? Never, Tamura said quietly. No one's ever, he trailed off, then typed. Why do you care so much? You don't know us. Not really. The response took almost a full minute to come through. The analyst, because I've spent my whole life being told I couldn't be a hero. Because I know what it's like to be written off by society, to be told you're worthless, to have the system fail you. I was lucky I had people who believed in me anyway, who gave me chances I didn't deserve. You guys didn't have that. But it's not too late. It's never too late to choose something different. The analyst, also, Tuya, your brother Shudo, is one of my closest friends. He talks about you sometimes. The brother he lost. He misses you. Even if he doesn't know that's what he's missing. I think he'd want you to have a second chance. Dabi's vision blurred. He blinked rapidly, refusing to let the tears fall. Beside him, Tamura's hand found his again, squeezing. He knows Shudo, Dabi whispered. He's friends with my brother. Are you going to tell Shudo? Tamura asked. If we do this, if we escape, are you going to reach out to your family? I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. Dabi wiped at his eyes roughly. First, we have to survive. Then we figure out the rest. Dabi, we'll be there. 11 p.m. And kid? This is a trap. The analyst, it's not. I swear on my hero license that I'll never have. This is real. I'm really trying to help you. The analyst, one more thing. Are you both eating enough? Do you have medical supplies? Are your injuries being treated? Dabi almost laughed. He's worrying about our medical care. We're villains and he's asking if we're eating enough. Tamura, we're managing. The analyst, because I need you both healthy for tomorrow night. If you need anything, food, medical supplies, money, I can arrange a dead drop. No contact, no risk. Just let me know. Tamura and Dabi stared at each other. He's offering to buy us groceries, Tamura said, sounding dazed. He's completely insane, Dabi agreed. We're definitely trusting him with our lives. Dabi, we're okay for now. But thank you. Really. Thank you for caring. The analyst, that's what heroes do. Even the weird underground hacker ones who aren't technically heroes yet. Smiley face. The analyst, get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense. And guys? It's going to be okay. I promise. The messages stopped. Dabi and Tamura sat in the dim apartment, the weight of what they just agreed to settling over them like a blanket. We're really doing this, Tamura said. We're really doing this, Dabi confirmed. If it goes wrong, then we die. But we were probably going to die anyway. Dabi stood up, offering Tamura his hand. At least this way, we die trying to be something better. Tamura took his hand, letting Dabi pull him to his feet. Do you really think he can pull this off? Faking our deaths? I think the analyst has done impossible things before. I think he's the kind of person who doesn't know how to quit. And I think, Dabi paused. I think he actually sees us as people worth saving. Maybe that's enough. Back in his dorm room, Izuku closed his laptop and leaned back against his bed, exhausted. Bakugo was sitting in the desk chair, watching him with an unreadable expression. You just promised to fake the deaths of two of Japan's most wanted villains. I know. You promised to protect them, give them new identities, and probably commit about 17 different crimes in the process. I know. Deku, if this goes wrong. I know, Kaken. Izuku's voice cracked. I know all of that, but I also know that they're desperate and scared and asking for help. And if I don't help them, who will? They'll either die trying to escape on their own, or they'll stay in the league and eventually get killed by heroes or by their own people. This is their only chance. Bakugo was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay. So how do we do this? We need Todoroki. If Dabi is his brother and I'm 99% sure he is, then Todoroki deserves to be involved. Plus, his ice quirk will be useful for staging a believable death scene. And Kirishima? Kirishima is loyal, strong, and won't ask questions we can't answer. Plus, he can harden himself for protection if things go wrong. Izuku stood up. We need to talk to them tonight. Both of them. Together. This is insane. Yeah, Izuku agreed. But when has that ever stopped us? Bakugo grinned, sharp and feral. Never. Let's go tell Half and Half that his dead brother is alive and needs our help faking his death again. That'll be a fun conversation. End chapter 4. Dabi was still staring at his phone, trying to process the conversation that had just happened, when there was a knock at the door. Both he and Tamura froze. Expecting someone? Tamura whispered, his hand coming up defensively, all 5 fingers spread and ready to decay anything that came through that door. No. Dabi's flames flickered to life in his palms. Could be the League. Could be heroes. Could be. Another knock. Then a voice called through the door, Dilvoi 4. Apartment 3B? I've got a bunch of packages here. Someone prepaid and tipped really well, so I'm not asking questions, but you gotta sign for this. Dabi and Tamura exchanged glances. It's a trap, Tamura hissed. Or. Dabi moved carefully toward the grimy window, peering through the cracked blinds. A Dilvoi driver stood outside, young, bored-looking, holding a stack of boxes and bags. Behind him was a DLVOI scooter. No heroes in sight. No police. No League members. A normal DLVOI driver. Or the analyst works terrifyingly fast. He couldn't have arranged a DLVRY in the 5 minutes since we stopped texting. You want to bet on what the analyst can or can't do? Dobby moved toward the door, keeping his flames ready. He cracked it open just enough to peer out. Yeah. The DLVY driver barely looked up from his phone. You the resident of 3B? Got your stuff? Need a signature. What stuff? Dude, I don't know, I just deliver things. Says here. He squinted at his phone. Food DLVY from 3 different restaurants, clothing packages from 2 stores, and a medical supply order. Somebody really likes you. He moved an electronic pad forward. Just sign here so I can go home. Dobby signed with a scrawl that was nothing like his real signature or Tuya Todoroki's signature. The driver handed over the boxes and bags without ceremony and left, already scrolling through his phone as he walked away. Dobby closed and locked the door, staring at the pile of deliveries now sitting in their decrepit safe house. Okay, he said slowly. So the analyst really did just send us care packages. Tamura approached the boxes like they might explode. This could still be a trap. Trackers, bugs, poison. He literally just promised to help us escape. Why would he poison us? But Dobby was already checking anyway, running his hands over each box, looking for anything suspicious. Nothing. Just normal DLVY packaging with receipt labels that showed everything had been ordered and paid for online about 15 minutes ago. How did he even know our location? Tamura demanded, though he was already opening one of the food bags. The smell of hot, fresh food wafted out, and Dobby's stomach growled traitorously. They'd been living on convenience store food and whatever they could steal for weeks. He traced the message. He told us we just didn't believe how fast he'd be. Dobby opened another bag and stopped dead. Tamura, look at this. Inside wasn't just random takeout. There was high-quality ramen from a place Dobby vaguely remembered from before, from when he was still Tuya, when his family had money and he could eat at nice restaurants. There were rice ball, fresh fruit, protein bars, electrolyte drinks, and even some individually wrapped pastries. But what made Dobby's throat tight was the note taped to one of the containers, written in neat handwriting on plain paper. I didn't know what you liked, so I ordered a variety. The ramen is from Ichiraku's, they have good reviews, and the broth is supposed to be really nourishing if you're not eating regularly. The protein bars and electrolyte drinks are for tomorrow night, you'll need energy. Please take care of yourselves. You matter. He's worried about our nutrition, Dobby said, his voice coming out rougher than he intended. This kid, this hero student we've never met in person, is worried about whether we're eating enough. Tamura was opening the other packages. His hands were shaking slightly as he pulled out clothes. Not the cheap, disposable kind. Quality stuff: hoodies, jeans, t-shirts, even socks and underwear. All in dark colors that wouldn't stand out, all in styles completely different from what they usually wore. Another note fell out. These should fit based on the photos I found. The style is different from your usual clothes, that's intentional. The LOV knows what you typically wear. These will help you blend in after tomorrow. There are also some toiletries and basic supplies in the bottom bag. And Tuya, I included some specialized burn cream. I noticed in the footage from your fights that your scars seem painful. This brand is supposed to be the best for firequark-related burns. Dobby's hands were shaking now too. He opened the last bag: medical supplies. Not just basic first aid, but serious medical gear. Burn cream, as promised, in a brand that Dobby knew was expensive. Painkillers. Antibiotics. Bandages. Antiseptic. Even some prescription-strength medication that Dobby was fairly certain required a doctor's authorization. And one more note. I can't fix everything. I can't give you back the years you lost or undo the pain you've both been through. But I can make sure you're healthy and fed and have what you need to survive until tomorrow. That's a start. Please use these. Please let me help. You deserve help. Tamura sat down heavily on the mattress, holding a soft black hoodie like it was something precious. His visible eye was suspiciously bright. He got my size right. How did he get my size right? Photo analysis, probably, Dobby said automatically, but his mind was elsewhere. He was staring at the burn cream, expensive and specialized and exactly what he needed. What he'd needed for years but couldn't afford or access without risking exposure. This kid, the analyst, Midoriya Izuku, if Dabi's own research was correct, had somehow found them, traced them, figured out exactly what they needed, and delivered it all within 15 minutes of their conversation ending. And he'd done it with notes full of gentle encouragement and genuine concern. "I don't understand," Tamura said quietly. "Why does he care? We're villains. We've hurt people. We've been hurt worse," Dabi finished. "That's what he sees. Not the villains we became, but the people we were before everything went wrong." He picked up the burn cream, turning the container over in his scarred hands. "He called me Tuya. Not Dabi, Tuya. Like that person still exists somewhere." "Does he?" "I don't know." Dabi opened the container, the smell of the medicinal cream familiar yet somehow comforting. "But maybe the analyst thinks he's worth finding. Worth saving." Tamura's phone buzzed. They both jumped, then laughed nervously at their own paranoia. Tamura checked it. "The analyst, the DLVY should be there by now. I hope everything is okay. I estimated sizes and preferences based on available data, but if anything doesn't fit or if you need something else, please let me know. I can arrange another DLVY. The analyst, also, I noticed in some footage that Shigaraki, you scratch your neck when you're anxious. I included some moisturizing cream that might help with the irritation. It has a mild sedative effect too, might help you sleep better. The analyst, and Tuya, the burn cream should be applied twice daily. I know it probably hurts to treat the scars, but infection risk is high with those kinds of injuries. Please take care of yourself. The analyst, you both matter. Whatever you've done, whatever you think you are, you're still people who deserve care and safety. I'll see you tomorrow night. Rest well." Tamura showed Dabi the messages, and they both just stared at the screen for a long moment. "He knows about my neck scratching," Tamura said, voice small. "He noticed that." "He notices everything," Dabi replied. "And then he acts on it. He doesn't just observe, he helps." He looked at all the supplies spread across their tiny safe house. "Tamura, this isn't a hero trying to capture villains. This is someone who genuinely wants us to be okay." "When was the last time anyone wanted us to be okay?" "I don't think anyone ever has." Dabi sat down next to Tamura, close enough that their shoulders touched, a rare moment of physical comfort that neither of them usually allowed themselves. "Not since we became who we are now. Maybe not even before." Tamura leaned into the contact slightly. "What if tomorrow goes wrong? What if this is all too good to be true and we're walking into a trap we can't see?" "Then we die," Dabi said simply. "But we die with full stomachs, clean clothes, and medical treatment. That's better than we've had in years." He paused. "And Tamura? I don't think it's a trap. I think this kid is exactly what he seems to be, someone who sees broken things and can't help but try to fix them. We're not things. No, we're not. But we are broken." Dabi picked up one of the ramen containers, passing another to Tamura. "And maybe that's okay. Maybe broken things can be fixed." They ate in silence, the hot food almost painful after weeks of inadequate nutrition. The ramen was incredibly rich and nourishing, and exactly what Dabi's body had been craving. Tamura made small sounds of contentment as he ate, carefully using just 4 fingers on his chopsticks. "This is really good," Tamura mumbled around a mouthful of noodles. "Yeah," Dabi agreed. He pulled out his phone and typed, "We got the DLVY. Thank you for all of it. The food, the clothes, the medical supplies. And the notes. Thank you for seeing us as people." The response was almost immediate. "You are people. Don't ever forget that. Now eat, rest, and take care of those injuries. I need you both in good condition for tomorrow. We've got a lot of work to do." The analyst, also, "Tuya, please use that burn cream. I know it probably seems like a small thing, but you've been in pain for a long time. You deserve relief from that pain." The analyst, "And Shigaraki, the moisturizer is in the green container. Try it tonight. Your hands deserve to heal too." Dabi felt something warm and unfamiliar in his chest. But maybe, or trust, or just the strange comfort of being cared for after years of isolation. "Dabi, how did you arrange all this so fast?" The analyst, "I've gotten very good at logistics. Also, I may have had some of these supplies already prepared just in case. I've been monitoring your situation for a while, and I wanted to be ready if you ever reached out for help. Tamura, you were prepared to help us before we even asked? The analyst, I'm always prepared to help people who need it. That's my job. Or at least, that's what I want my job to be. The analyst, now seriously eat and rest. Tomorrow night at 11 p.m. I'll send the location at 10, bring the clothes I sent you'll need to change into them, and bring anything else you absolutely can't leave behind. This might be your last chance to grab personal items before we stage your deaths. Dabi, understood. And kid? We won't forget this. Any of it. The analyst, you don't need to repay me. Just survive. Just let me help you build better lives. That's payment enough. Back in the dorms, Izuku closed his phone and let out a long breath. Bakugo was staring at him with something between admiration and exasperation. You just spent 47,000 yen on care packages for 2 villains. I have savings, Izuku defended. And they needed it. Did you see the footage from their last appearance? They're both clearly malnourished and injured. How are they supposed to successfully fake their deaths if they're in terrible physical condition? That's your justification? Tactical efficiency? Also basic human decency, Izuku added. Kaken, they're starving and hurt and scared. They reached out to us for help. The least I could do was make sure they have food and medical supplies. You included personalized notes. They needed to know someone cares about them. Izuku's voice rose slightly before he caught himself and lowered it. They've been isolated and abused and trapped for years. A little kindness isn't going to kill anyone. Bakugo was quiet for a moment, studying Izuku's face. Then he sighed. You're going to give me a heart attack one of these days, you know that? But fine. You're right. They need to be in good condition for tomorrow, and if feeding them and giving them clothes accomplishes that, it's a sound tactical decision. It's also the right thing to do. Yeah, and that too. Bakugo stood up. Come on. We still need to talk to Half and Kirishima. Unless you want to send them care packages first. Don't tempt me. I noticed Todoroki's been using cold soba as a coping mechanism again, and Kirishima's protein intake is below optimal. Deku, I swear to God. Okay. Let's go. Izuku grabbed his phone and followed Bakugo out into the hallway. They found Todoroki in his room, studying at his desk with single-minded focus that Izuku recognized as his avoiding thinking about family issues concentration. Kirishima was easier to locate. He was in the common room with Kaminari and Siro, playing video games. Bakugo texted Kirishima, common room. Important. Bring Half and Half. 5 minutes later, all 4 of them were crowded into Bakugo's room. It was bigger than Izuku's and had better soundproofing thanks to some modifications Bakugo had made to contain his quirk during nightmares. Okay, Kirishima said, dropping into a chair. What's this about? You guys look serious. Todoroki stood near the door, arms crossed, his heterochromatic eyes moving between Izuku and Bakugo with growing concern. Did something happen? Are you both all right? We're fine, Izuku assured him quickly. But we need your help with something. Both of you. And before we explain, you need to promise that what we're about to tell you stays between us. No teachers, no other students, no authorities. This is big. How big? Kirishima asked, suddenly serious. Potentially life or death big, Bakugo said bluntly. So we need to know, are you in or out? Because once we tell you, there's no going back. Kirishima didn't even hesitate. I'm in. Whatever it is, I've got your back, bro. Todoroki was more measured, but his answer was equally firm. If you need help, I'll provide it. You have my word that I won't share whatever you tell me without your permission. Izuku and Bakugo exchanged glances. Then Izuku took a deep breath. So this is going to sound insane, but I need you both to hear me out before you react. Tomorrow night, we're meeting with 2 members of the League of Villains who want to defect. We're going to help them fake their deaths and escape. And Todoroki. Izuku's voice softened. One of them is your brother. Tuya is alive. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Kirishima said very quietly, Bro. What the F-dashed it? And Todoroki's temperature dropped so dramatically that frost spread across the walls. The temperature in Bakugo's room had dropped at least 15 degrees in the span of 3 seconds. Todoroki stood frozen literally and figuratively, his left side covered in a spreading sheet of ice while his right side sparked with barely contained flames. His eyes were wide, distant, like he was looking at something far away. Or perhaps far in the past. "Todoroki," Izuku said gently, taking a careful step forward. "I need you to breathe for me. Can you do that?" "My brother," Todoroki said, his voice hollow. "Tuya. You're saying Tuya is alive?" "Yes." "Tuya is Dabi?" "Yes." "My dead brother is a villain. And you've been talking to him." It wasn't a question, but Izuku answered anyway. "He reached out to us. He and Shigaraki both. They want to escape the League, but they can't do it alone. They need help." "Why you?" Todoroki's voice cracked. Why would he reach out to 2 students instead of? "Because we're the analyst and the disruptor," Bakugo said bluntly. "Because we've built a reputation for fixing impossible problems. And because..." He glanced at Izuku. "Because we're not heroes yet. We're not bound by all the rules that would require them to arrest him on sight." Kirishima held up a hand. Wait, back up. The analyst? The disruptor? You guys are those hackers? The ones who rebuilt the Tokyo emergency system and created that hero coordination app? "Yeah," Bakugo said. "Holy shit," Kirishima breathed. "How long have you?" "Since middle school. Can we focus?" Bakugo turned back to Todoroki. "Half and half, I know this is a lot, but we need you functional. Your brother is in danger. Shigaraki is in danger. And if we don't help them, they're probably going to die trying to escape on their own." Todoroki's ice was spreading faster now, creeping across the floor. "He let me think he was dead. For years. He let us all think. He probably thought he had to," Izuku interrupted softly. "Todoroki, I've been analyzing your family situation. I'm sorry. I know that's invasive, but I needed to understand the context. Your father's training methods, the pressure, the abuse. Tuya was the eldest son, the one who bore the brunt of Endeavor's expectations until his quirks started hurting him. And when he died..." Izuku took a breath. Maybe he thought death was the only way to escape. Maybe he thought if he came back, Endeavor would drag him right back into that hell. So he became a villain instead? Todoroki's voice was rising, his control slipping. Flames danced along his left shoulder while ice crawled up his right arm. He joined the League of Villains? Attacked heroes? Hurt people? He's been sabotaging their operations for months, Izuku said urgently. I've analyzed every attack he's been part of. He positions himself to minimize casualties. He focuses on heroes with questionable ethics. He's been protecting people, Todoroki. In his own way, he's been trying to do the right thing while trapped in an impossible situation. That doesn't make it okay. No, Izuku agreed quietly. It doesn't. But it makes him human. It makes him someone who made bad choices because he thought he had no good ones. And now he does have a choice. He has a chance to walk away, to become someone different. But only if we help him. Todoroki was shaking now, his quirk fluctuating wildly between ice and fire. Why are you telling me this? Why involve me at all? Because he's your brother, Izuku said simply. Because you deserve to know he's alive. And because... He hesitated. Because if we're going to fake his death convincingly, we might need your ice. Fire and ice, an explosion that destroys bodies beyond recognition. It's poetic in a horrible way, but it would work. You want me to help kill my brother? Even if it's fake. I want you to help save your brother, Izuku corrected. This is his only chance, Todoroki. If he tries to leave the League without staging his death, they'll hunt him forever. All for One will never stop looking. But if everyone thinks he's dead, he gets a second chance, Kirishima finished, his voice thoughtful. He'd been quiet, processing, but now he stepped closer to Todoroki. Man, I can't imagine what you're feeling right now. But Midoriya's right. If your brother wants out, if he wants to be better, don't you want to help him have that chance? I don't know what I want, Todoroki said, his voice breaking. The temperature in the room was fluctuating wildly now. He's been alive this whole time. He's been out there, and he never tried to contact us, never tried to come home. Would you have gone home? Bakugo asked, his tone uncharacteristically gentle. If you'd escaped your old man's training, gotten away from all that shit, would you have voluntarily gone back? Todoroki flinched. That's different. Is it? Your old man drove him so hard his quirks started burning him from the inside. He was a kid, half and half. A kid who was in pain and desperate and probably terrified. And he made a bad choice. A really bad choice. But people can change. People can be better. Bakugo glanced at Izuku. Some people are really fing good at seeing the potential in broken things and refusing to give up on them. Izuku felt his face heat up. Kaken. Shut up, I'm making a point. Bakugo turned back to Todoroki. Look, you don't have to decide right now. But at least meet him. Talk to him. Tomorrow night, 11 p.m. If you decide you can't help after that, fine. But give him a chance to explain. Give yourself a chance to get answers. Todoroki was quiet for a long moment, his quirks slowly calming as he wrestled with his emotions. Finally he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. What's he like now? What's my brother like? Izuku chose his words carefully. He's angry. He's hurt. He's been surviving in an impossible situation for years. But he's also... Izuku pulled out his phone, showing Todoroki the messages. He's capable of caring about people. He's protective of Shigaraki. He accepted help when we offered it. And when I called him Tuya, when I acknowledged who he really was. I think part of him was relieved. Like maybe he's been waiting for someone to see him as more than just Dabi the villain. Todoroki read the messages. His expression unreadable. Then he saw the notes about the care package, about the burn cream and the concern for their well-being. You sent them supplies. They needed them. You're trying to take care of villains. I'm trying to take care of people who need help, Izuku corrected. Their villain status is temporary. If this works, they won't be villains anymore. They'll just be two people trying to build better lives. Todoroki was quiet again, still reading. Then, he's in pain. The burn cream his scars hurt him. His quirk is incompatible with his body. Every time he uses it, he damages himself further. Like my mother, Todoroki whispered. Father forced them both to use quirks that hurt them. He broke both of them. Todoroki, I want to meet him. Todoroki's voice was suddenly firm, decided. Tomorrow night. I want to talk to my brother. And if he's really trying to escape, if he really wants a second chance. He looked up, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Then yes, I'll help. He's my brother. I should have been there for him before. Maybe I can be there for him now. Izuku felt relief wash over him. Thank you. I know this is... Don't thank me yet, Todoroki interrupted. If he hurts anyone tomorrow night, if this is some kind of trick... It's not, Izuku said with absolute certainty. I promise you, Todoroki. Your brother is asking for help. He's not trying to hurt anyone. How can you be so sure? Because I'm really good at reading people. And because... Izuku hesitated. Because I understand what it's like to be desperate for a chance to prove you're worth something. To have everyone write you off before you even start. Your brother never got the chances I got. But maybe we can give him those chances now. Todoroki nodded slowly, then turned to Kirishima. You're being very quiet. Kirishima had indeed been uncharacteristically silent, his expression thoughtful. Now he rubbed the back of his neck. I'm just processing. Finding out my best bro and my friend are secretly super hackers who've been running underground operations for years, and now they're planning to help two major villains fake their deaths and escape. It's a lot, you know? Are you okay with this? Bakugo asked, and there was something vulnerable in his voice that Izuku rarely heard. Because if you're not... I didn't say that. Kirishima stood up, moving closer to Bakugo. I'm saying it's a lot to process. But Bakugo, man, you're talking about helping people who need it. You're risking everything to give someone a second chance. That's like the manliest thing I've ever heard. Of course I'm in. Bakugu's expression softened almost imperceptibly. You're an idiot. You're idiot, Kirishima said with a grin, then seemed to realize what he'd said and flushed bright red. I mean like, your friend who's an idiot, not like, your I didn't mean. We know what you meant, Kirishima, Izuku said, hiding a smile. The dynamic between Bakugu and Kirishima had been shifting for a while now, and apparently tonight's stress was bringing some of those feelings to the surface. Todoroki was watching them with interest, his own emotional crisis momentarily forgotten. Are you two? No, Bakugu said quickly. Not yet, Kirishima added, then flushed even brighter. I mean shut up, let's focus on the villain rescue mission, okay? That's probably wise, Todoroki agreed, but there was the faintest hint of amusement in his voice. He turned back to Izuku. So what's the plan for tomorrow? What do we need to do? Izuku pulled out his notebook, the encoded one, and started explaining. We meet them at 11 p.m. at a location they'll send us at 10. We need to be prepared for anything. Kirishima, your job is protection. Keep yourself hardened and be ready to shield anyone if things go wrong. Todoroki, your ice will be crucial for the staged death scene. We'll need to create a situation that looks catastrophic enough that bodies couldn't be recovered. And Bakugu? Kirishima asked. Explosions, Bakugu said with a sharp grin. I'll provide the firepower to make the whole thing look convincing. Plus, if any actual League members show up, I can fight them off while Deku gets Dabi and Shigaraki to safety. What about you, Midoriya? Todoroki asked. What's your role? Coordination. Communication. Making sure we have exit strategies and backup plans. Izuku flipped through his notes. I'll also be managing the digital side, making sure the right people see the right evidence, planting the story, creating a trail that leads to the conclusion we want. By the time the sun rises on the day after tomorrow, everyone in Japan will believe that Dabi and Shigaraki died in a confrontation with unknown heroes. Unknown heroes, Todoroki repeated. Us. We can't exactly take credit, Bakugu pointed out. We're students. Students who aren't supposed to be engaging villains without supervision. If anyone finds out it was us, they won't, Izuku assured him. I'll make sure of it. The digital trail will be clean. Any physical evidence will be ambiguous. And we'll all have alibis for tomorrow night. What alibis? Kirishima asked. Still working on that part, Izuku admitted. But I have some ideas. Todoroki moved closer to Izuku, studying his face with unusual intensity. You've really thought this through. Every detail. Every contingency. That's what I do, Izuku said, suddenly very aware of how close Todoroki was standing. I analyze problems and find solutions. You're remarkable, Todoroki said quietly, and there was something in his voice that made Izuku's heart skip a beat. I thank you. Izuku managed, feeling his face heat up. Bakugu made a gagging sound. Can we save the feelings talk for after we commit multiple felonies? Thanks. Multiple felonies? Kirishima repeated weakly. Conspiracy, obstruction of justice, aiding and abetting known criminals, unauthorized quirk usage, and probably a bunch of other shit, Bakugu listed. We're going to be breaking a lot of laws tomorrow night. For a good cause, Todoroki added, still watching Izuku. For a good cause, Izuku agreed, trying to ignore the way his stomach fluttered under Todoroki's gaze. A knock on the door made all four of them jump. Bakugu-kun. Ida's voice called through the door. Are you in there? I heard raised voices and temperature fluctuations. Is everything all right? They all froze, staring at each other in panic. Sheet, Bakugu hissed. How long has he been out there? Bakugu-kun, I can hear you, Ida continued. Please open the door. As class representative, it's my duty to ensure everyone's safety. Todoroki immediately began reabsorbing his ice, the frost on the walls and floor melting away. Kirishima grabbed Izuku's notebook and shoved it under Bakugu's pillow. Bakugu moved to the door, cracking it open just enough to peer out. What do you want, Four Eyes? Ida's expression was stern. I want to know why there are four of you crammed into your room at 11:30 p.m. on a school night, why Todoroki-kun's quirk was clearly active, And why you all look like you've been caught doing something you shouldn't be. We were just talking, Bakugo said unconvincingly. Talking about what, exactly? School stuff, Kirishima added, equally unconvincing. Ida's eyes narrowed behind his glasses. He looked past Bakugo at the others. Midoriya-kun. What's going on? Izuku felt his heart sink. Ida was too perceptive, too dedicated to following rules and ensuring his classmates' safety. There was no way he'd just accept a vague answer and walk away. We're working on a project, Izuku said carefully. For our hero studies. It's complicated and kind of sensitive, so we're keeping it quiet. A project that involves Todoroki-kun using his quirk inside the dorms? Ida's tone was skeptical. He lost control for a second, Todoroki said, his voice calm. We were discussing something emotionally difficult, and my quirk reacted. It's handled now. Ida studied each of their faces in turn. His expression was troubled. I see. And this project, does Aizawa-sensei know about it? The silence was dimming. I thought not. Ida adjusted his glasses. I don't know what the four of you are planning, but I can tell it's something significant. Something that you believe is important enough to justify secrecy. He paused. I trust you all. You're my classmates and my friends. But I'm also concerned. Whatever this is, please be careful. And if you need help, we've got it handled, Bakugo interrupted. But thanks, I guess. Ida nodded slowly. Very well. But Midoriya-kun, may I speak with you privately for a moment? Izuku's stomach dropped, but he nodded. Sure. They stepped out into the hallway, leaving the others behind. Ida led him a few doors down, far enough that they couldn't be easily overheard. Midoriya-kun, Ida said seriously. I've known you for over a year now. I know how your mind works. You see problems and you can't help but try to fix them, even when it puts you in danger. Ryukun, please, let me finish. Ida's voice was gentle but firm. Whatever you're involved in right now, it's something big. Something that has Bakugo-kun cooperating, Todoroki-kun emotionally compromised, and Kirishima-kun looking like he just learned something world-changing. That suggests whatever this is, it's serious. Possibly dangerous. Izuku wanted to deny it, to deflect, but Ida deserved better than lies. I can't tell you what it is. Not yet. But Ida-kun, I promise we're trying to help people. We're not doing anything wrong, or at least, we're doing wrong things for the right reasons. Ida's expression softened. I know you are. You always are. But Midoriya-kun, sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same. And as much as I believe in following rules, I also believe in you. So I'm not going to report whatever this is to the teachers. But I'm going to ask you to be careful. To think through the consequences. And to come to me if you need help. Thank you, Izuku said quietly. Really? That means a lot. One more thing. Ida hesitated. If this involves villains in any way. Izuku's face must have given something away because Ida's eyes widened. It does, doesn't it? Midoriya-kun, are you in danger? No, Izuku said quickly. I'm not in danger. I promise. This isn't. It's not what you think. What is it then? Izuku looked at his friend, one of the first people at UA to truly believe in him, to treat him as an equal despite his initial lack of a quirk. Ida deserved honesty. But he also deserved protection from the consequences of knowing too much. It's complicated, Izuku said finally. And I wish I could explain everything, but I can't. Not yet. Maybe soon. But Ida-kun, trust me. Please. What we're doing, it's going to help people. It might even change things for the better. Ida studied his face for a long moment. Then he sighed. I do trust you. Even when I probably shouldn't. But promise me you'll be safe? I promise. Help if things become too dangerous or complicated, you'll come to me. I promise that too. Ida nodded, though he still looked troubled. Very well. I should let you get back to your... But Midoriya-kun? Whatever happens tomorrow, and I have a feeling something is happening tomorrow, be careful. You're important to this class. To me. I don't want to see you hurt. Izuku felt warmth spread through his chest. Thank you, Ida-kun. Really? As Ida walked away, Izuku leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. That had been too close. If Ida had pressed harder, if he'd insisted on knowing more. His phone buzzed. Unknown number, analyst. We just got a message from one of the League scouts. They're planning something tomorrow night. Some kind of recruiting mission in the city. If we're going to do this, we need to move fast. The meeting point needs to be somewhere they won't be watching. Dabi, also, thank you again for the supplies. Tamura's neck is already looking better, and my burns are less painful. You were right, we needed this. Shigaraki, this is Tamura. I've been analyzing potential meeting locations. I'm sending you coordinates for 3 options, all far from known League activity. Your choice which one to use. Izuku pulled out his laptop from his room and started analyzing the coordinates. Each location had pros and cons. He'd need to consider escape routes, visibility, proximity to heroes who might investigate, likelihood of civilian interference. His phone buzzed again. This time it was from Bakugo. Everything okay with Four Eyes? Deku, for now. But he's suspicious. We need to be more careful. Kaken, great. Add that to the list of things that could go wrong tomorrow. Deku, it'll be fine. We've planned for complications. Kaken, you always say that. Then things get complicated anyway. Deku, that's why we have backup plans. Kaken, fair enough. Half and half is still processing. Kirishima is trying to comfort him. It's awkward and kind of endearing. Deku, are you watching them? Kaken, they're in my room, thanks. Where else would I? Deku, fair point. Kaken, Deku, are we really doing this? Helping 2 of the most wanted villains in Japan escape? Deku, yes. We are. Kaken, okay. Just checking. Because this is insane. Deku, I know. Kaken, but we're doing it anyway. Deku, we're doing it anyway. Kaken, good. I'd be disappointed if you suddenly got sensible. Izuku smiled at his phone, then turned back to his analysis. Tomorrow night, everything would change. For Dabi and Shigaraki. For him and Bakugo. For Todoroki, who was about to get his brother back. And possibly for Hero Society, if they pulled this off. No pressure. And Chapter 6. Izuku stood in the hallway, Ida's words echoing in his mind. I trust you. I don't want to see you hurt. He'd been about to let Ida walk away. To keep him safe, uninvolved, protected from the consequences of what they were planning. But then his phone had buzzed with that message from Dabi and Shigaraki. The League was planning something tomorrow night. The timeline was tighter than he'd thought. The risks were higher. And if things went wrong, they'd need all the help they could get. More than that, Ida deserved the choice. Deserved to decide for himself whether to be involved. Actually, Ida-kun, Izuku said before he could second-guess himself. Would you risk your status? Because we might need your help sooner than I expect. Ida stopped mid-step, turning back slowly. His expression was surprised, then thoughtful, then resolute. My status doesn't mean anything if I'm not using it to help people who need it. What do I have to do? Izuku felt something tight in his chest loosen. Of course. Of course Ida would say that. Come back to Kaken's room. You need to hear everything. But Ida-kun, once I tell you this, you can't unknow it. You'll be complicit. If this goes wrong, you could lose your hero license before you even get it. You could be arrested. Your family name could be damaged. I need you to understand what you're agreeing to. I understand, Ida said firmly. And I'm choosing to help anyway. Because you're my friend, Midoriya-kun. And because I trust that whatever you're doing, it's for a good reason. It's for the best reason, Izuku said quietly. We're trying to save people. People who everyone else has given up on. Then let's not waste any more time. Ida gestured toward Bakugo's room. Shall we? When they entered Bakugo's room, 3 sets of eyes immediately locked onto Ida with varying degrees of panic. What the F-Deku? Bakugo hissed. We said no one else. We need him, Izuku interrupted. The timeline just moved up. The League is active tomorrow night. If anything goes wrong, we'll need more backup than we planned for. And he looked at Ida. And he deserves to choose whether to help. Todoroki studied Ida carefully. You understand this is serious? Potentially illegal? I gathered as much from context, Ida said, adjusting his glasses. I'm choosing to trust you all anyway. Kirishima grinned. Man, you're braver than I thought, Ida. Welcome to the crazy train. Please don't call it that, Izuku muttered. He gestured for Ida to sit, then took a deep breath. So this is going to sound insane, but everything I'm about to tell you is true, and I have evidence to back it all up. Over the next 20 minutes, Izuku explained everything. The double identities as the analyst and the disruptor. The underground network. The messages from Dabi and Shigaraki. The plan to help them defect and fake their deaths. And with a glance at Todoroki for permission, which he received via a small nod, the revelation that Dabi was Tuya Todoroki. Ida listened without interrupting, his expression growing more shocked with each revelation. When Izuku finally finished, there was a long silence. Then Ida said very quietly, I need a moment to process this. Take your time, Todoroki said. Ida stood up and paced the length of the room 3 times. His hands moved in short, choppy gestures, his thinking movements. Finally, he stopped and turned to face them all. You're telling me that 2 members of the League of Villains want to defect? That they've been sabotaging the League from within? That one of them is Todoroki-kun's supposedly dead brother? And that you're planning to stage their deaths tomorrow night to help them escape? Yes, Izuku confirmed. And you want me to help with this plan, which will involve breaking multiple laws, deceiving hero agencies, and potentially putting all of us in significant danger? Yes. Ida adjusted his glasses again, a nervous habit. And you truly believe that these 2 people deserve a second chance? That they're genuinely trying to change? I do, Izuku said firmly. I've analyzed their behavior patterns for months. I've read everything about them I could find. They're not evil people, Ida-kun. They're traumatized people who made bad choices because they didn't see any good ones. But now they do. Now they're asking for help to make better choices. And I can't turn away from that. Even though they're villains? Even though they've hurt people? My brother burned me, Todoroki said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. During the sports festival, when I was fighting Midoriya, I was so focused on rejecting my father's fire that I wouldn't use it. Midoriya made me remember that it's my power. But what I didn't say then, what I've never told anyone, is that part of my fear of fire comes from Tuya. He took a shaky breath. Before we thought he died, his training accidents got worse. He was losing control. And one day, when I was very young, I got too close during one of his sessions. He burned me. Not badly, but enough to scare me. Enough that I associated fire with pain and fear. Todoroki looked up, meeting Ida's eyes. But that doesn't change the fact that he's my brother. That he was a child being abused by our father. That he deserves a chance to heal and be better. If Midoriya thinks he's sincere about wanting to change, then I believe him. And I'm willing to help, even knowing the risks. Ida was quiet for another long moment. Then, my brother was paralyzed by the hero killer. Everyone stiffened. I know, Ida continued. I've never hidden that. What I don't talk about is, I wanted revenge. When I went to Hosu, I wasn't thinking about justice or being a hero. I was thinking about hurting the person who hurt my family. If Midoriya and Todoroki hadn't been there, if Native-san hadn't been there, I would have become something I'm not proud of. To look around at each of them. I broke rules that night. I went against orders. I prioritized personal vendetta over heroic duty. And my friends saved me anyway. They didn't judge me for my worst moment, they helped me become better. So who am I to deny someone else that same chance? Izuku felt tears prick at his eyes. Ida-kun. I'll help, Ida said firmly. Tell me what you need me to do. Bakugo let out a long breath. So we've got 5 people now. That's better than 4. What's my role? Ida asked, all business now that he'd made his decision. Izuku pulled out his notebook. You're fast. Faster than any of us. If we need to evacuate quickly, you can carry people. If we need to split up and lead league members away from the real meeting point, you can create false trails. And if anything goes wrong with the digital side of things, if I need to physically get to a location to plant evidence or hack a system, you can get me there faster than anyone else. Plus, Kirishima added, "You're scary when you're in full hero mode. If we need to look official, to sell the idea that we're actually heroes responding to a crisis, you've got the presence for it." "I appreciate that, Kirishima-kun, but I don't feel very heroic right now," Ida admitted. "I feel like I'm about to commit multiple felonies." "You are," Bakugo said bluntly. "We all are. But like Deku said, sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same." "I never thought I'd hear you say something like that," Todoroki commented. "Yeah, well, Deku's rubbing off on me. It's annoying." But there was no heat in Bakugo's words. Izuku's phone buzzed. He checked it, another message from the unknown number. "Shigaraki, analyst, we have a problem. One of the league members has been asking questions about where Dabi and I have been. We've been careful, but Toga noticed Dabi's been spending less time at the base. She's suspicious. We might not have until tomorrow night." Izuku's heart sank. "We have a complication." He showed the others the message. "Toga," Todoroki said. "She's observant. Obsessive. If she's noticed something's off, she could report it to the rest of the league," Kirishima finished. "And then Dabi and Shigaraki are in immediate danger." "Can we move the meeting up?" Ida asked. "Do it tonight instead?" "It's almost midnight," Bakugo pointed out. "And we're not fully prepared. We haven't established alibis, we haven't set up all the digital evidence." "We can improvise," Izuku said, his mind already racing. "It won't be as clean, but we can make it work. The core plan is solid. We just need to execute faster than we thought." "Deku, can you both get away tonight? Like right now?" The response came within seconds. "Dabi, we can be at the primary location in 30 minutes. But analyst, if we're doing this tonight, we need to make it count. If Toga reports her suspicions before we're officially dead, the league will hunt us forever." "Deku, understood. 30 minutes. We'll be there." Izuku looked up at his friends. "We're doing this tonight. Right now. Everyone get what you need: hero costumes if you have them here, phones, any gear you think might be useful. We meet by the back entrance in 10 minutes. "What about alibis?" Todoroki asked. "I'll handle it," Izuku said, already typing furiously on his laptop. "I'm going to create a digital trail that shows we were all in our rooms all night. Time-stamped social media posts, automated messages, even some fake security camera footage. It won't hold up under serious scrutiny, but it'll be enough for initial questions." "You can do that in 10 minutes? Ida asked, sounding odd. "I've done it in 5 when I had to. 10 minutes is plenty." Izuku's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up programs and protocols he designed for exactly this kind of situation. "Now go. Get ready. And everyone," he looked up, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "Thank you. For trusting me. For believing in this. For being willing to risk everything to help people who need it." "That's what heroes do," Kirishima said simply. "Even when it's complicated." "Especially when it's complicated," Todoroki added. "Let's go save my brother," he said quietly, determination in his voice. "And Shigaraki. Let's give them both the second chance they deserve." 15 minutes later, 5 figures slipped out of the UA dorms through a back exit that Izuku had carefully confirmed wasn't being monitored that night. They were dressed in dark clothes, not quite hero costumes, but practical gear that would allow them to move and fight if necessary. Izuku had his laptop in a backpack along with several burner phones and various pieces of tech. Bakugo had added some minor support gear to his gauntlets. Todoroki was ready to use both sides of his quirk. Kirishima had his hero costume on under a jacket. And Ida was in full hero gear because, as he'd pointed out, if they were going to do this, they might as well look official. "The meeting point is an abandoned warehouse district about 3 kilometers from here," Izuku said, checking his phone for the coordinates Shigaraki had sent. "Ida-kun, you can get us there fastest, but you'll need to make multiple trips." "I can carry 2 at a time if they hold on tight," Ida said. "Midoriya-kun, Todoroki-kun first. Then I'll come back for Bakugo-kun and Kirishima-kun." "Why do I have to go second?" Bakugo demanded. "Because you're the most combat capable if someone stumbles across us while we're waiting," Ida said logically. "Kirishima-kun can defend himself with his hardening." "Fine," Bakugo grumbled. Ida knelt down. Midoriya-kun on my back. Todoroki-kun, I'll carry you bridal style. What? Todoroki's face flushed. It's the most aerodynamically efficient method for carrying two people at high speed, Ida explained. Please don't make this awkward. Izuku climbed onto Ida's back, wrapping his arms around his friend's shoulders. Todoroki, still blushing, allowed Ida to scoop him up. Everyone ready? Ida asked. Let's do this, Izuku confirmed. Ida's engines roared to life, and suddenly they were moving fast, faster than Izuku had ever experienced outside of All Might's jumps. The world blurred around them as Ida raced through the streets of Mizudafu, taking routes that avoided main roads and security cameras. 3 minutes later, they arrived at the warehouse district. Ida set them down gently. Wait here, he instructed. I'll be back with the others in 5 minutes. Then he was gone, a blur of motion disappearing back toward UA. Izuku and Todoroki stood in the shadows of an old warehouse, the night air cool around them. Neither spoke for a moment. Are you okay? Izuku asked finally. With seeing your brother? No, Todoroki said honestly. I'm terrified. I don't know what to say to him. I don't know if he'll even want to see me. But he took a deep breath. I have to try. I owe him that much. You don't owe him anything, Izuku said gently. He made his choices. But you're choosing to help him anyway, and that's incredibly brave. Or incredibly stupid. Why not both? Todoroki's lips twitched in an almost smile. Then he turned to face Izuku fully. Midoriya. Before the others get back, I need to say something. Okay. Remarkable. The way you see people, the way you believe in their potential to be better. The way you're willing to risk everything to help someone you've never even met in person. It's... Todoroki struggled for words. It's inspiring. You're inspiring. And I wanted you to know that. Izuku felt heat rise to his face. I'm just doing what anyone would. No, you're not. Most people wouldn't do this. Most heroes wouldn't do this. But you are, because you can't stand to see someone suffer when you have the power to help them. Todoroki stepped closer. That's what makes you special, Midoriya. Not your analysis skills or your hacking abilities. It's your heart. Your unwillingness to give up on people. Todoroki. The sound of Ida's engines interrupted them. Moments later, Bakugo and Kirishima appeared. We've got movement, Bakugo reported immediately. 2 figures coming from the east. Moving carefully, staying in shadows. That's them, Izuku said, checking his phone. Right on time. Everyone ready? Kirishima asked, hardening his arms. As ready as we'll ever be, Izuku confirmed. They moved deeper into the warehouse district, toward the specific building Shigaraki had designated. It was old, partially collapsed, perfect for a clandestine meeting. Perfect for staging a dramatic death scene. As they approached, Izuku could make out 2 figures in the darkness. One was tall, slim, covered in the distinctive scars and piercings he recognized from photos. The other was thinner, more hunched, with pale blue hair that was unmistakable even in the dim light. Dabi and Shigaraki stopped about 10 meters away, clearly cautious. Analyst. Dabi called out, his voice rough. That you? It's me, Izuku confirmed, stepping forward. And I brought help. People we can trust. 5 of you, Shigaraki observed. More than you said. Plans changed. We needed more people. Izuku gestured to his friends. This is the disruptor you've been messaging with him. And these 3 are friends who want to help. They understand the situation. Dabi's eyes startlingly familiar blue. Izuku noticed scanned the group. Then they stopped on Todoroki, and Dabi went very, very still. Shudo. His voice cracked on the name. Todoroki stepped forward, ice and fire both flickering in his hands. Hello, Tuya. You look different than I remember. That's because I burned myself half to death trying to prove I was worth something, Dabi said, bitter and broken and honest. I know, Todoroki said quietly. I understand now. I understand what he did to you. To all of us. And I want to help you get free of it. All of it. Dabi's scarred face twisted with emotion. But Why would you help me? I'm a villain. I've done terrible things. Because you're my brother, Todoroki interrupted. And because Midoriya believes you deserve a second chance. And I trust Midoriya's judgment more than I trust anyone else's. Dabi looked at Izuku, something unreadable in his eyes. The green bean in person. You're younger than I thought you'd be. I'm 16, Izuku said. So are all of us. Does that change anything? It makes you either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid for doing this. Why not both? Kirishima echoed Izuku's earlier words with a grin. Shigaraki laughed an unexpected, raspy sound. I like them. Analyst, you chose well. Can we do the pleasantries later? Bakugu interrupted. We're on a timetable. Let's figure out how we're faking your deaths and getting you out of here before the League notices you're gone. Practical. I appreciate that, Shigaraki said. He pulled out a laptop, old and battered but clearly functional. I've been working on digital evidence to support the death story. Encrypted messages between Dabi and me suggesting we were planning to betray the League. Security footage that looks like we were meeting with unknown heroes. Medical records showing our injuries have been getting worse. It's all fabricated, but it'll hold up to initial investigation. That's good, Izuku said, impressed. I can integrate that with what I've been preparing. Between your background material and my real-time manipulation of emergency systems, we can create a narrative that's almost impossible to disprove. What about physical evidence? Ida asked. Bodies, or what appears to be bodies? I've got that covered, Todoroki said. My ice can create human-shaped forms. If we shatter them with enough force and heat. My explosions, Bakugu interjected. And Dabi's fire. We create a scene that looks like a massive quirk confrontation. Ice, fire, explosions. Body-shaped ice shatters into pieces that could be mistaken for organic matter if no one looks too close. And I, Izuku added, will make sure the initial reports describe the scene in ways that discourage close investigation. Biohazard concerns, structural instability, classified hero operation. By the time anyone gets clearance to examine the evidence carefully, we'll have removed anything that doesn't support our story. You've really thought of everything, Dabi said, sounding awed. That's what I do, Izuku confirmed. Then he looked between Dabi and Shigaraki. But I need to know, are you both absolutely sure about this? Once we do this, you can't go back. You'll be dead to everyone you've ever known. You'll have to build entirely new lives. It'll be hard and it'll be lonely, and there's no guarantee it'll work. We're sure, Shigaraki said immediately. This is our only chance. Our only way out. Then let's make it count, Izuku said, pulling out his laptop. Everyone, gather around. We have a lot of work to do and about 20 minutes to do it before the League realizes something's wrong. As the group huddled together, 5 hero students and 2 villains, planning something that would change all their lives forever, Izuku couldn't help but think about how strange his life had become. A year ago, he was a quirkless kid with impossible dreams. Now he was orchestrating the fake deaths of wanted criminals while building an underground network to reform hero society from the inside. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was probably going to get them all arrested. But it was also, undeniably, the most heroic thing Izuku had ever done. Because heroes save people. Even when those people are supposed to be the enemy. End chapter 6.5 chapter text. Izuku stared at the ice sculptures Todoroki had created, human-shaped, roughly the right size, but ultimately just ice. Even shattered and burned, they wouldn't hold up to close inspection. Not from the League. Not from people who knew Dabi and Shigaraki intimately. No, Izuku said suddenly, his analytical mind already seeing the flaw in their plan. This won't look believable to the LOV. They'll know. Toga especially, she's obsessed with blood. She'll know immediately that these aren't real bodies. Bakuga muttered. You're right. We need actual bodies. Or something close enough that even people who knew them wouldn't question it. We can't exactly produce corpses on demand, Kirishima pointed out nervously. No, but... Izuku's mind was racing, connecting pieces, calculating possibilities. He looked at Bakugu, and something passed between them, a silent conversation they'd had dozens of times over the years. The conversation about secrets they'd kept, powers they'd hidden, abilities that made them even more valuable targets than they already were. "Kaken," Izuku said quietly. "Yeah," Bakugo replied, understanding immediately. "We need to tell them." "Tell us what?" Todoroki asked, his eyes narrowing. Izuku took a deep breath. "We have second quirks. Both of us. We've been hiding them since we were kids." The silence was absolute. "What?" Ida's voice was strangled. "Second quirks? That's extraordinarily rare. The chances of naturally occurring multiple quirks in one person are." "We know," Bakugo interrupted. "That's why we hid them. Being the analyst and the disruptor already made us targets. Having multiple quirks would make us even bigger ones." "What are they?" Todoroki asked, his voice carefully controlled. "Mine is called Flourish," Izuku said. "I can accelerate the growth and development of organic matter. Plants, bacteria, even human cells if I'm careful. I discovered it when I was 7. My mom's houseplant grew overnight when I touched it. I've been hiding it ever since. And mine is ground," Bakugo added, his voice gruff. "I can manipulate earth and stone. Shape it, move it, create structures. I've used it for my tech work, creating prototype casings, building equipment. But never in public." Dabi was staring at them with something like awe. "You're both multi-quirk users. Do you know how valuable that makes you? How many people would want to study us? Experiment on us? Use us?" Izuku finished. "We know. That's why we've been so careful. That's why even our closest friends didn't know until right now. But you're telling us now because you can use these quirks to solve our body problem," Shigaraki said, his analytical mind already working. "How?" "Bakugo can create a base structure," Izuku explained, already pulling out his laptop to do calculations. "Earth and minerals can be shaped to approximate human bone structure and density. Then I can use Flourish to grow organic tissue over its skin, hair, enough biological matter that it would register as human remains, at least initially. That's..." Ida adjusted his glasses, his hands shaking slightly. "That's brilliant. Disturbing but brilliant." "It's going to take both of us working together," Bakugo said. "And it's going to be exhausting. Creating that much matter, that fast. We've never tried anything this large-scale before." "But you can do it?" Dabi asked urgently. "We can do it," Izuku confirmed. "But we'll need DNA samples from both of you. Hair, ideal. The more biological material I have to work with, the faster I can grow the tissue. And we'll need you both to describe your body structures in detail," Bakugo added. "Height, weight, bone structure, any distinctive features. The more accurate the base form, the more convincing the result." Shigaraki immediately started pulling at his hair carefully, with just 4 fingers. "Take what you need." Dabi did the same, wincing as he pulled several strands from his scarred scalp. "And my body structure. The burns have changed my proportions, but I can describe what's under the scars." "Todoroki," Izuku said, "can you help? You knew your brother before. You can verify we're getting the details right." Todoroki nodded, moving closer to Dabi. There was something painfully NTMT about the way he studied his brother's face, comparing what he remembered with what existed now. "Okay," Bakugo said, kneeling on the ground. "Everyone step back. This is going to look weird." He pressed his palms to the concrete floor of the warehouse, and suddenly the ground began to move. Not exploding, that was his registered quirk. This was different, controlled, almost gentle. The concrete cracked and reformed, earth and stone rising up like clay being shaped by invisible hands. Within minutes, 2 human-shaped forms emerged from the ground. They were rough, crude, but approximately the right size and shape. "Holy shit," Kirishima breathed. "Bakugo, that's amazing." "Save the compliments for after we don't get arrested," Bakugo grunted. The effort was clearly taxing. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his hands shook slightly as he refined the shapes. "Height adjustment on the taller one," Dabi called out. "I'm 5 feet 9 inches, not 5 feet 7 inches. And the shoulders need to be broader." Bakugo made the adjustments, the earth flowing like water under his control. The other one needs to be thinner, Shigaraki added. I'm underweight. It should show in the bone structure. More adjustments. Todoroki stepped in, pointing out details about his brother's build that Dabi confirmed or corrected. It was strange, watching them work together, the current villain and the hero student, collaborating to create a convincing corpse of the person they'd both lost years ago. Okay, Bakugo said finally, pulling his hands back. That's as good as I can get it without more detail. Deku, your turn. Izuku stepped forward, the strands of hair from both Dabi and Shigaraki carefully wrapped in cloth in his hands. He activated Flourish, a quirk he'd kept hidden for so long that using it openly felt almost transgressive. Green energy crackled around his hands, and suddenly the biological material began to grow. The hair strands multiplied, spreading across the earth-formed skeletons like moss across stone. Skin followed, pale and thin at first, then thickening, developing texture and detail. It was horrifying and fascinating to watch. Ida looked faintly ill. Kirishima's eyes were wide with shock. Todoroki's expression was carefully blank, though his left side was sparking with barely controlled fire. Details, Izuku said through gritted teeth. The effort of accelerating this much growth was enormous. I need you to describe everything. Scars, marks, anything distinctive. Dabi stepped closer, unbuttoning his coat to show the patchwork of burns and staples that covered his body. The burns start here, he traced the pattern. Held together with surgical staples, spacing like this. Izuku focused, the tissue growing and warping to match. Staples appeared not real metal, but organic approximations that would fool initial investigation. The other one, Shigaraki said, his voice strained. I have scars on my neck. From scratching. And my hands, the skin around my fingers is damaged from my quirk. More growth, more detail. The forms on the ground were becoming disturbingly realistic. Hair, Izuku gasped. Need more hair. The color, the texture. Dabi pulled off more of his own hair, not caring that it clearly hurt. Todoroki stepped in, creating ice-cold water to clean the blood from the strands before Izuku used them. Shigaraki did the same, his pale blue hair falling into Izuku's waiting hands. The hair grew, spreading across the scalps of the earth-formed bodies. Black hair for one, spiky and familiar. Pale blue for the other, longer and messy. Clothing, Bakugo said. They need to be wearing something. We brought spare clothes, Shigaraki said quickly, pulling a bag from where they'd hidden it nearby. Our usual outfits. We can dress them. It was surreal, watching them dress bodies that looked increasingly like themselves. Dabi's long coat over one form. Shigaraki's distinctive hand-covered outfit on the other. The hands, Ida said suddenly. Shigaraki-san, your hands. The ones you wear. Father and the others, Shigaraki said quietly. He carefully removed them all except the one on his face. Take them. Use them. They're part of my identity as Shigaraki. If my body doesn't have them, the League will know something's wrong. They arranged the hands on the second body. The sight was grotesque, but effective. Finally, after nearly 30 minutes of exhausting work, 2 bodies lay on the warehouse floor. They weren't perfect up close, someone would notice they weren't quite right. But from a distance, especially damaged and burned, they'd be convincing. Now we destroy them, Bakugo said. Make it look like a fight. Wait, Izuku said. He pulled out a small medical kit from his bag. Blood. We need blood at the scene. Dabi, Shigaraki, I need samples from both of you. Just a few drops. I can use Flourish to multiply it, make it look like you bled out during the fight. They both offered their hands without hesitation. Izuku pricked their fingers with a sterilized needle, catching the blood on glass slides. Then he focused, and the blood multiplied, spreading across the warehouse floor in patterns that suggested violence and death. Okay, he said, stepping back. Now we destroy them. Make it look catastrophic. Todoroki, Bakugo said. Ice first. Encase them completely. Make it look like someone tried to freeze them in place. Todoroki's ice exploded outward, encasing both bodies in thick layers of frozen water. Dabi, Bakugo continued. Your fire. Maximum heat. Make those burns real. Dabi's blue flames erupted, melting and warping the ice, charring the organic tissue beneath. The smell was horrific, burning flesh and hair and something chemical from the synthetic staples. Now me, Bakugo said. Everyone get back. They all scrambled backward as Bakugo's explosions lit up the warehouse. Massive, controlled blasts that shattered the ice, scattered the remains, and made the whole scene look like a massive quirk battle had taken place. When the smoke cleared, the scene was perfect. Devastation. Blood. Scattered remains that looked human but were too damaged to be easily identified. Scorch marks. Ice fragments. Evidence of multiple powerful quirks being used in close quarters. Oh my god, Kirishima said. That's actually convincing. It has to be, Izuku said, already pulling out his laptop. Now I need to work fast. I need to hack into the local hero emergency system, plant evidence that a fight was reported here. I need to create communication logs suggesting underground heroes were pursuing high-value targets. I need to... Deku, Bakugo interrupted. Sit down before you pass out. You just grew 2 bodies worth of organic matter. You're about to collapse. I'm fine. You're swaying, Todoroki said, catching Izuku's arm. Let us help. What do you need us to do? Izuku wanted to argue, but Todoroki was right. He was exhausted. Growing that much biological matter had drained him more than he'd anticipated. My laptop, he said, allowing Todoroki to guide him to sit against a wall. The programs are already set up. I just need to trigger them. Ida-kun, can you tell me what to do? Ida said immediately, taking the laptop. Ida through the process. Planting evidence. Creating false reports. Manipulating timestamps. Building a narrative that would hold up to initial investigation. Bakugo was equally exhausted from his quirk use, but he worked with Shigaraki on the digital side, using his knowledge of system architecture to help cover their tracks. Dabi stood with his brother, both of them silent as they watched their fake bodies burn. It's strange, Dabi said quietly. Seeing yourself dead. Knowing that tomorrow, everyone will think you're gone. Is it what you want? Todoroki asked. Really? Yes. No hesitation. I want a chance to be something other than my father's failure or the League's weapon. And if that means dying. He looked at the burning remains. Then I'll die. And maybe Tuya can live again. Somehow. You'll need new names, Todoroki said. New identities. Places to stay. Money. Support. We'll figure it out, Dabi said. The analyst has plans, I'm sure. He seems like the planning type. He is, Todoroki confirmed. The pause. I'm glad you're alive. I'm angry about how you went about it, and I don't understand all your choices, but I'm glad you're alive. Dabi's expression softened. I'm sorry. For leaving you with him. For not being there. You were surviving. I understand that now. Todoroki created a small flame in his left hand, watching it dance. Father broke all of us. But maybe we can heal anyway. Together. Maybe, Dabi agreed. Across the warehouse, Shigaraki was watching Ito work with fascination. You're very precise, he observed. Every movement deliberate. Every action calculated. It's necessary when working with systems this complex, Ito replied, not looking up from the laptop. One wrong keystroke could compromise the entire operation. You're not scared? Of helping villains? Of breaking all these rules? Terrified, Ida admitted. But fear doesn't excuse an action. If I can help someone escape a bad situation, if I can contribute to giving people a second chance, then my fear is irrelevant. That's very heroic. Or very foolish. Time will tell which. Shigaraki laughed that strange, raspy sound again. I think I like you. You're honest. Most heroes pretend they're not afraid, that they're always sure of themselves. You admit your doubts but act anyway. That's refreshing. Ida glanced up, meeting those red eyes. And you're not what I expected. The reports make you sound unstable, violent, chaotic. But you're analytical, methodical. You think several steps ahead. The reports are based on my public persona. I play a role, the unstable villain who might dust anyone at any moment. It keeps people afraid, keeps them from looking too close. Shigaraki scratched his neck absently. But that's not who I am. Not really. Who are you then? I don't know yet. That's what I'm hoping to figure out, once I'm not Shigaraki anymore. Well, Ida said, turning back to the laptop. I look forward to meeting whoever you become. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 40 minutes, everything was ready. The emergency services will be here in about 10 minutes, Izuku said, checking his phone. I triggered a delayed report, made it look like someone called in a disturbance, but the system was slow to process it. That gives us the time gap we need. The digital trail is clean, Bakugo confirmed. Anyone investigating will find evidence of an underground hero operation that went wrong. The bodies will be identified as Dabi and Shigaraki based on DNA evidence, which will match because we used their real biological material. But the DNA database won't have complete records, so there will be enough uncertainty that no one will question it too hard. What about us? Kirishima asked. How do we explain being out here? We weren't, Izuku said. According to the records I just created, we've all been in our rooms all night. Social media posts, security camera footage, everything. We have alibis. Now we just need to get Dabi and Shigaraki somewhere safe, Todoroki said. Have a place, Izuku said. A safe house I set up months ago. It's under a false name, paid for in cash, no digital trail. You can stay there while we figure out the next steps. How do we get there without being seen? Dabi asked. Ida-kun, Izuku said. Think you can make one more high-speed trip? 2 passengers again. I can manage, Ida confirmed, though he looked tired. The rest of us can walk back, Bakugo said. We'll take different routes, arrive separately. Make it look natural. Wait, Shigaraki said. He looked at each of them in turn. Before we go. Thank you. All of you. You risked everything for us. 2 villains you barely know. I don't know how to repay that. You don't need to repay us, Izuku said firmly. Just live. Build better lives. That's payment enough. And maybe, Ida added, when you've had time to heal and figure out who you want to be, maybe you'll help others the way we helped you. Pay it forward. We will, Dabi promised. Whatever it takes. We'll make this worth it. Sirens wailed in the distance, emergency services responding to the fake report. Time to go, Bakugo said urgently. Ida scooped up Shigaraki and Dabi with surprising efficiency, one on his back, one in his arms. Hold tight. This will be fast. The safe house address is in your phone, Izuku told them. We'll contact you tomorrow with the next steps. Stay inside, don't use your quirks, and don't contact anyone from your old lives. Understood, Shigaraki said. Then Ida's engines roared to life, and they were gone. The remaining 5 stood in the warehouse, surrounded by the evidence of their elaborate deception. Emergency lights were approaching rapidly. We need to move, Todoroki said. Now. They scattered, each taking a different route back to UA. Izuku went alone, his mind racing with everything they'd just done. Everything they'd just revealed. They'd created fake bodies using hidden quirks that no one knew they had. They'd staged the deaths of 2 wanted villains. They'd committed dozens of felonies. And somehow, impossibly, they'd pulled it off. As Izuku slipped back into the UA dorms through the same back entrance they'd left from, he allowed himself a moment of exhausted triumph. They'd done it. They'd saved 2 lives. And tomorrow, when the news broke about the deaths of Dabi and Shigaraki, no one would ever suspect that 5 hero students had orchestrated the whole thing. End chapter 7.